Open tabs, margin notes, highlighter, bleed through quotes, research mind, steady eye patterns only she can note. I-90 fog, whispering under wheels, skyline, afterglow, 2 states, packed rooms, quiet minds that know, no sign needed out front. They circle to her voice, questions rise before she starts, curiosity by choice. She pivots mid-lecture, checks who's leaning in close. Say the part you skip out loud, that's where the learning goes. Heads home with the speakers up, Biggie in the background, mind still mapping theories while the city slows down. She teaches the why behind the crime, the hurt behind the face, Philly in her backbone, psychology in her grace. Don't let the hype fool you, she stands 10 stories tall. She don't just teach the lesson, she teaches you through it all. Late nights with case files open, notes in the margin glow. She's showing you your story's roots so you can choose where to go. Biggie quotes inside the slides right next to coping skills. Spread love between the lines of how a nervous system feels. Long days, quiet grit, humor in the punchlines. You are more than this moment, written 10 times, old assessments in a folder, ink dust on the sleeve. She can map anxious attachment before you know you grieve. 1 foot in Jersey lecture halls, 1 on the Philly street. Home is where she learned to fight, classes where we don't repeat. Grown kids texting check-ins, pride she doesn't post. She teaches minds all day, then goes in mother's most. Case files, true crime, mind behind the scenes. She doesn't tell you what they did, she shows you what it means. Your story is not your diagnosis. You are allowed to rewrite it.
Hold on. Hi guys, sorry about that. Of course, at the very last moment, stuff goes crazy like usual. How's everyone doing? Come on in, come on in. Hi guys. How we doing? Let's see who's here. We have Cuff You is here. Hi Cuff You. Hi Glenn. Truth is here. Who else? Andrea's here. Come on in, you guys. Come on in. Yeah. Craziness, right? So, I lost something that I'm trying to find. I don't know what I did with it, you guys. Whatever. It was too late to stop the live. I was going to stop the live for a second and try and find it, but it's okay. I'll live. I always lose stuff. Does anybody else lose stuff like me? I'm always losing shit. I never know where I put it. It's always like lost. There's my drink. Oh, I have a whole thing prepared, don't worry. Hi Lisa. Hey Higgins. Come on in, you guys. Come on in. Let's see. Okay, so let me put up what I have here. I had a crazy day today, you guys. You have no idea. Craziness. I'm going to do a whole thing on it. Truth and I talked about it. And Cuff You a little bit, but I didn't tell Cuff You the part that we talked about. Truth thinks I should do a live on a similar topic. Maybe not the exact one, but something similar. We'll talk about it. Anyway, let me show you what I have for us tonight. We're going to be doing or covering Lori Vallow Daybell and as it relates to cults. Okay, so as it relates to cults. So let's do this, you guys. Okay. So first of all, welcome in. I hope everybody's doing great today. I hope we're all good. Woman's Warrior is here. Good to see you, sweetheart. Hi, guys. Come on in. I'm so excited that you're here. You lose everything too, Higgins? I'm like so annoyed because I really wanted this. If you were here last night, you might know what I'm talking about, but let's just keep it all between us. I think YouTube bad actors took a video of it. But now, no, what did I do? I lose everything. That sucks too. I did not want to lose this at all. Anyway, I could have really used it right this second. Do you have your phone on vibrate? Why is it buzzing? It's my computer. I should have gotten the better computer. Hopefully it'll stop in a minute. Let's see. Awesome. I'm glad you guys all like keep each other in the loop. That's amazing. All right. Okay. So. I couldn't write this. I swear to God. I didn't. Sorry. Oh, you're good. All right. So here we go. So tonight we're going to go over the Lori Vallow Daybell. So we're going to look at the case through a psychological lens, not through rumor, not through armchair certainty. What makes this case so gripping is that it appears to combine fringe apocalyptic beliefs, an intense romantic bond, destiny thinking, okay, that's a big one, progressive moral disengagement, and extraordinary collapse of empathy around vulnerable family members. So as we go, I want you to keep 3 things. Oh my gosh, yes. Thank you, Tim, or TLM. I just said, oh wait, it is, oh no, it's TLM. Thank you, TLM. Welcome to the Minds Behind True Crime family, where we put the fun in dysfunctional. I appreciate you greatly. I really do. Thank you. So what we're going to do is I want you to keep 3 things, 3 lanes clear. So first, there are facts established through court proceedings and major public reporting. Second, there are observable behavior patterns. And third, because again, we look at behavior patterns more so than any type of diagnostic criteria, especially because I don't know, I've never met Lori, you know what I mean? So all I know is from interviews that she's done, from where she's defended herself through trials, all the video footage that we have of her, so on and so forth. So the third thing I want you to keep in mind is that there are interpretations that may help explain the behavior but not function as a normal diagnosis. That distinction matters, you guys. It keeps us ethical and it keeps us accurate. I also want to say this real plainly real quick, okay? So this case should not be used to smear an entire faith tradition. Let me say that again. This, I don't know exactly how I said it, but this information or case that we're doing tonight should not be used to smear an entire faith. That is not what I'm trying to do. The more accurate frame is more about fringe absolutism. So we're going to talk about fringe absolutism. So this is, you know, people on the outsides, on the outskirts, and things that we don't see as often. So we're not talking about mainstream here. Next we have So with this fringe part of the faith that we are going to talk about, this is like beliefs that become personalized, secretive, and morally untouchable. That's where psychology becomes useful, because once people begin to see themselves as chosen, ordinary rules can start to feel negotiable. So keep that in mind. So and again, sometimes when we talk about cult-like behavior, because we're going to see this tonight on the realm of cult beliefs, coercive control, things of that nature. So I just want to make sure that we go over those few little things first. There you go. So we all know that I'm not here to diagnose anybody. I'm here to pick out behavioral patterns. So first, let me go through this case. Hold on, let me make this bigger so I go to the next one. Here we go. So here's a snapshot of the case, you guys. So here are the major anchor points. Lori Vallow Daybell's children, Tylee Ryan and JJ Vallow. They disappeared in September 2019. Their remains were later found in June 2020 on Chad Daybell's Idaho property. In 2023, Lori Vallow Daybell was convicted in Idaho on murder and conspiracy-related counts tied to the children's deaths and Tammy Daybell's death, and she was sentenced to life without parole. Those are the concrete case facts that hold this conversation together. So let's remember that. Psychologically, the reason this case keeps drawing public attention is that it stacks several high-intensity elements on top of one another. So we have vanished children, prophetic or apocalyptic claims, romantic fusion, spiritualized violence, and financial deception. Audiences are not just reaching to crime. They are reaching to betrayal, right? Because these are things that we all see in our lives. So things like betrayal, meaning distortion, and the terrifying possibility that ideology can be used to justify harm. That's why this is such a powerful case for teaching. It is not one thing. It's the convergence of the case. Bye, you guys. Be careful. All right. It's a convergence case. So it's not just about one thing here. We're going to see a bunch of things that come together. Okay. Let's see. So before I go any further, are there any questions so far for me? Let me know.
Thank you for having me.
Bye, you guys. Love you.
Love you.
Sorry, you guys. Everybody wants to come and leave as soon as I go live. Thor wants to bark. This stuff doesn't happen until I go live. It's crazy. So I have on here all the things that I just said. And we're going to look over things like cult or fringe belief dynamics, coercive control, narcissistic traits, all of our favorites, right? Moral disengagement, attachment, and identity needs, which is my personal favorite one to talk about, bystander blind spots, and family system collapse. So they are the major psychological lenses that we see in this particular case. So this next slide shows a condensed timeline, okay? So here the timeline is part of the story. Charles Vallow was killed in Arizona in July 2019. By September of 2019, Tylee and JJ were no longer alive. In October of 2019, Tammy Daybell dies in Idaho. In November, so by November of 2019, Lori and Chad marry in Hawaii. In June of 2020, the children's remains were discovered on Chad Daybell's property. Then the legal system slowly and publicly began catching up, okay? When I talk about this case, I do want to emphasize that the speed matters. When belief, romance, grievance, and practical incentives all intensify at the exact same time, you guys, the escalation risk can rise very, very, very quickly. So fast shifts into loyalty, language, identity, like I always talk about, right? These are often clinically and behaviorally important. So that's why we're talking about them. We also have to remember that people sometimes expect dangerous change to unfold gradually, but in some cases it only accelerates and it explodes, if you will, especially when the individuals involved are feeding one another's certainty. Now keep that in mind. So let me say that again. When individuals involved are feeding one another certainty, this comes with the sense of delusional belief systems, right? And, you know, we're going to see that in some cult-like behavior. Some people, wait, what does it say? What level demon are you and what is your name? Oh gosh, could you imagine? God forbid. God forbid. But again, this stuff does matter. So where did I... Okay, so we're still on this timeline here. I just want to make sure that I said everything. So with this sequence is one reason that the case feels so surreal. It did not just involve tragedy. It involves rapid relational realignment and narrowing of moral concern. Now you have to remember, these people were religious. You know, they believed in, I don't know the exact belief system, but we know that they had different beliefs. We know that they had apocalyptic beliefs where they thought that the end of times were coming. They also, at least we know that Lori believed that she was chosen to bring, you know, to get rid of the people that aren't supposed to be here and keep those around that are, so that we're going to talk about like how we get to dark and light and stuff like that. And at some point, we have to remember that when there is a psychological shift where someone starts to believe in this religious grandiosity, if you will, or thinking a delusion of religious persecution even. So just thinking things that you're doing something in God's honor or somebody's punishing you type thing. So here we're seeing that, you know, Lori believes that she is like handpicked. I can't remember the name of, oh, what was the prophet, you guys? Jude or the prophet? Oh my God, it's on the tip of my tongue. I'm saying Jude, but it's not Jude. It's something else. Anyway, the whole point there, oh, it just came to me and it's on the tip of my tongue and then went away. Oh, it's going to bother me. Somebody in chat will tell me, though. I know that you guys will know. The point here is that once somebody feels as though they're doing something for, you know, because God wants them to or because they were put here to do so, that's when things can become dangerous, because that's when we start to change the goalpost, if you will, when it comes to what we consider morally, legally, ethically right and wrong. Okay? So, let's keep going. Let's see. I don't think Lori... Didn't Lori think her kids were zombies? Yes, no, it was Lori. Lori thought that her kids were zombies. That's that whole light and dark thing. So, you know, if you were dark, there were also levels of darkness, too. So, but if you got to a certain level, yes, you were considered a zombie, and therefore, in Lori's, at least her alleged belief system, was that once you're a zombie, your body, your physical body has been taken over by something demonic, and therefore that takes away or detaches a sense of personality, personability. We now could see the person as an object and not as much as a person, and that then makes it easier for somebody to eliminate that threat, if you will, even though there's nothing threatening about any of the people that they deemed dark, right? It's them that were the ones that they had to be worried about, not the people that they deemed dark. So I think that that's important as well. So yes, there's levels of darkness and levels of demons and zombies. I mean, what is The Walking Dead? Jeez. And seriously, but Lori did believe in a lot of this stuff. So that's the timeline. The next slide I have here that we're going to talk about real quick is belief system or cultic drift. So here, this is an important distinction, right? So this is where we need precision. Not every intense spiritual worldview is a cult. So let me start out by saying that. Even somebody that is extremely, like you might consider yourself an extremely religious person, or somebody that is like a devout Christian or whatever the case may be, I'm not talking about you, is what I'm saying. We're talking about literally an apocalyptic belief that leads to violence that is in a very fringe part of different sects, if you will. Sectors, sects. I'm not saying sex, X-E-X. Oh my God, you guys, what a day. Anyway, cases like this, though, raise questions about cultic drift, just meaning that a movement away from the ordinary belief system into a closed, absolutist system organized around special knowledge, chosen identity, and us versus them logic. So think about that, right? It's, the 144,000 or something. It was something along those lines. It was a lot. But the first 140, whatever it was, 1,000 people would, make it with them. And then people would just die off. There's a whole thing. We'll do a whole nother live just on that. I wanted to do more of this about coercive control and stuff like that. The things that we usually talk about. So over here, I wrote apocalyptic certainty. Fringe systems become psychologically powerful when they promise secret knowledge, urgent timelines, and simple explanations for chaos. Certainty reduces anxiety, even when the belief itself is extreme. So just remember that, okay? So even if the belief is extreme, that certainty reduces anxiety. Think about it. Think about a breakup that you would never want to happen, right? In that sense, if you know that it's going to happen, you start to prepare yourself, or somebody's sick and they may pass away. You may have weeks or months or, to prepare for that, so that when it does happen, it's certain. You know what's going to happen. You can better prepare yourself. Again, this doesn't mean it's a good thing or a bad thing. It just means that when we feel like we have control or we know it's going to happen, it's easier for us to then handle that. Okay, so let's see. Psychologically, you guys, this kind of system is powerful because it reduces uncertainty. It gives followers the answer for everything. It also rewards them with significance. If you're told you were chosen, spiritually superior, or uniquely able to see the truth, that can feel intoxicating. Think about it. If there's only a select few people that God is going to put on the earth to take his, 144,000 or whatever the number is, to the other side, and you're the one that he puts in charge of this, that could feel very intoxicating, very powerful, a very controlled type feeling, even if it's a very out of control type behavior. So, remember that. But it could be very intoxicating for people. It can soothe insecurity while alleviating status at the same time. So once this happens, people outside of the system can start to look blind, contaminated, or even dangerous. Even your children, right? So her children or his wife, her husband, these are people that you love the most in life. Even these people for you can split and then be able to look at them in a different way. So now you can rationalize some of the behavior. Also, what we're going to see is that once this happens and somebody, we have to remember this is where the dangerous part comes in. With Lori, it wasn't until these belief systems, she then meets Chad, who validates her delusions, if you will. And this is all in my opinion and alleged and, for academic purposes. But from what we see, they have, when two people, and again, I'm not as convinced that Chad believed in the things that I think that Lori, I don't know that she believed in all of it, but I do think that she was delusional in the sense that she genuinely believed that that this was like her destiny and that she was chosen to do this. Oh, geez, you guys, right? So empathy here erodes not because the person suddenly becomes unrecognizable overnight, but because the moral map changes. So other people are no longer just people. They become categories, and once human beings become a category, harm gets easier to rationalize. So just like I was saying before, I have over here chosen identity. So special status narratives are highly rewarding. When people see themselves as spiritually exceptional, normal rules can begin to feel optional, okay? So beneath them or even obstructive. And then the us versus them logic, think about that. That's very tribalistic. We're tribalistic in general, just as human beings, for survival purposes. So with that being said, that us versus them, even if you're fighting for the wrong thing, feeling a part of the community can be dangerous, especially if it's going in the wrong direction. Next, let's see what we have here. So next, on this next slide, we have coercive control and didactic radicalization. So I'm going to show you how it goes from emotional fusion to isolation, so on and so forth. So coercive control, you guys, is not just about obvious threats or physical intimidation. It's about a pattern. That's the word here, right? Pattern. It's about a pattern of domination, dependence, isolation, role assignment, and reality shaping. In extreme relationships, one partner may pressure, reward, or destabilize the other in ways that make dissent more difficult. So remember that. This can look many different ways. It can look like things such as withholding money, withholding time, withholding even a sense of normalcy within your life. The more somebody has control over your environment and has the ability to have an upper hand in some sense, if they use that power to their advantage, so in a negative way, to dominate, to isolate someone, to reassign a role, that's all, obviously, that's not a positive thing, right? That's all very negative. And that all goes with coercive control and radicalization. So when we look at, cults, we have to remember that some cults look like religious cults, other cults, there's all different types of cults. Usually they're based around a system of belief, and there's a leader, not usually, there is a leader that the people will look up to and follow. And I think Chad, he wrote books and stuff like that, so people went to go see him for his, when he had new books coming out and stuff. Even Lori went to go see him with her friend Melanie, right? And they run into him. And at first, I'm sure Lori was probably like, oh, wow, this author's talking to me type thing. But if you look at Chad, he was probably like, oh, wow, this beautiful lady is talking to me. So I think they wind up in a relationship, especially for these two, they feed off of each other, right? And logic can become skewed in this particular sense. But let's see here. So this case involves another concept. We have didactic radicalization. So sometimes two people become a closed loop. So think of it like this. They become a closed loop. They validate each other, they escalate each other, and they create a shared logic that becomes increasingly detached from the outside reality. That is why I don't frame this only as one person controlling another in a simple one direction way. It may be more accurate, you guys, to think of an unequal but mutually reinforcing system. So the emotional bond becomes central, and then competing attachments are downgraded. Things like your children, your spouse, people that you put first in your life before those attachments begin to get downgraded. Insider language starts to develop, right? So things like dark, light, demonic, zombies. And, these words, light, dark, zombie, demonic, these aren't new words. They're just used in this narrative way to communicate someone's moral what's the word I'm looking for? Their moral standing. That's the word I'm looking for. So their moral standing. So here we have dissent becomes evident of spiritual failure or disloyalty. So if you don't go along, you're out. All right. We don't like people that don't agree with us. We don't, and this is the thing. Once you become part of this system, no matter what system, I'm not just talking about this system that Chad and Lori are in. I use the cases to have a backdrop to talk about these bigger topics such as cults, right? So, oh wow. Wow, Truth, you've been a member for 9 months. I can't believe I've had memberships for 9 months. Hold on. Oh my God, my dogs. Why do they do this every single time? Hold on, Thor. All right, let me try to put something on real quick so that I could show you something while I go let them out for a second. So this real quick is from, oh wait, I don't want to get copyright strike, so let me pick, sparingly. Let's do part of this, right? Because this is about Lori too. So let me share this. So Nate Eaton, which most of you know who that is, and I'm going to go right back to this PowerPoint slide. I just wanted to show you this real quick. He does an interview with Lori, and it is so interesting, you guys. Watch this.
Hi, Lori.
Start watching this, and I'll tell you in a minute what I think. Let me let Thor go.
How are you? You ready?
Are you ready to go? Oh, okay. Hi.
Good to see you.
Nate, such a pleasure.
Have a seat. And
Long time coming, huh?
it has been. Happy birthday.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
So I want to start with Chad.
Okay.
You told me years ago.
Today is my birthday.
Today is your birthday.
How old do you think that I am?
52.
Oh, how did you know?
I do my research.
You must know a lot.
Yes.
The girls are like, are you turning 25 in my pod? And I was like, no, I'm turning 25 plus 25 plus 2.
There you go. So
Do the math.
You told me years
Oh my God, you guys, that in itself is a bit much.
ago Chad was the best man you've ever met.
Chad is a very kind person, yes.
Is that still true?
Yes.
So besides his
I want you guys, while we're watching this, to pick out. Oh, Casey! Yes, Casey has been a member for 3 months. Thank you so very much. As you guys watch this, I want you to remember some of the things that we've already talked about when it comes to coercive control, when it comes to creating new language, when it comes to all of those other things, right? Hi, YouTube bad actors. YouTube bad actors, you jinxed me because I lost my thing. I can't find it anywhere. Not that it had anything to do with you, but I need to blame somebody, so I'm going to blame you. I'm just joking. I love you. But yeah, so you guys, when we watch this, I want you to keep those things that we just talked about in mind. Also know that I added the information, the PowerPoints from yesterday's live over in our Discord, and I will also, as soon as we're done this, I will upload this all this information to Discord as well, so you can access all of my PowerPoint slides over there if you would like to. Now, YouTube, I was trying to use like telekinesis, but yes, okay, I don't know where it went.
spirituality, what else attracts you to Chad?
He's a wonderful person. Everyone who knows him knows that. You've never met him, right?
I haven't met him other than when we were in Hawaii.
I'm saying you never met him, talked to him, interacted with him, or...
No. How often are you able to talk with him?
So we aren't really speaking.
By your own choice, or just because it's not allowed from like prison to prison?
Yeah, like the way that the mail works here is very difficult. So we're only allowed to get postcards. Like you can't send a letter to the jail itself, and so there's difficulties within
Let's
that.
speed it up.
But you still love him,
Absolutely, yeah.
and you've said you'll be exonerated, and he will too.
Absolutely, we will.
Will that be before he's executed?
Yes, Nate, before he's executed. You're well aware, I know that you are LDS as well as I am, right? And you're well aware that the 3 Nephites in 35:28 were given the death penalty 7 times. They were arrested after Jesus personally translated them, okay? They were arrested, convicted, and given the death penalty 7 times. And where are they today?
I don't know.
They're still wandering the earth.
Yeah.
They didn't.
You guys, when I tell you, I genuinely believe that Lori believes this stuff. I really do. Take notice, one of the coercive behaviors and narcissistic type behaviors that I see, and even delusional, if you think of it, is the fact that, does anybody else think that she genuinely believes this? And does anybody notice that she immediately comes out and starts by asking Nate, within the first few minutes of him talking, by reminding him that he is also of the same faith, which is a way of, just like we learned 2 minutes ago, it's a way of using that particular thing that we have in common, even if you haven't been radicalized yourself or if you haven't become part of the fringe, it's a way to remind you that this is a loop of people and you're either in the loop or you're out of the loop, right? So in my opinion, her saying this to Nate was a way for her to remind him that you need to watch what you say. You need to, remember that you're from this particular thing as well.
Executed. So they didn't get the death penalty. And there's 220 people in this country who have been on death row and have been exonerated and gone home.
Do you think it'll be soon then?
I think it'll be in the Lord's time. I know that it will be in the Lord's time. And when you say the word soon, if you've ever watched The Chosen or dealt with Jesus at all, you know that soon is a relative term because 1,000 years are a day to him.
So does it bother you though that in Chad's trial he blamed it on you and Alex?
So now that I know the judicial system and now that I have been my own attorney and how things work, and I've said this before in an interview, it's so different what goes on behind the scenes in a high profile case. Okay.
Wow, so she just called herself a high profile case, which is also a very self-centered behavior, right? I mean, I'm sure she knows that her case gets a lot of attention, but yeah, I guess, you know what, I'm going to take that back because she does know that her case gets a lot of attention and that she would be considered a high profile case. However, it's the way she uses her standing in a high profile case that I think becomes disorganized and or abnormal behavior. So Anne-Marie, hi Anne-Marie from Canada. Thank you so much for being here. I feel so blessed to have you here. Anne-Marie says, could she have major mental health disorder untreated that is contributing factor as well? 100%. I genuinely, and I am not here to diagnose anybody. I don't want to do that. I don't want anybody to ever think I'm doing that. But I can pick out behavior patterns that I see. I can diagnose disorder. I'm not going to, you can't do that to somebody that you've never met before. I didn't do a whole diagnostic sit down with her. However, from what I see, in my opinion, we most likely have a personality disorder going on here. So cluster B in particular, and a delusional disorder. I genuinely believe that Lori Vallow Daybell believes a lot of these things that she preaches.
There's strategies going on, there's defenses going on, there's all these things going on that you wish, like, why can't we just go in and tell our side of the story? The attorneys are like, you can't do that. We have to come up with a defense. We have to do this, and we have to do this. And like, why do we just go, why isn't it, you thought, like, if you've never been in the judicial system, which I hadn't before, you thought they get to tell their side of the story, what they think happened, you get to go in and tell your side of the story, what happened, and then the jury gets to decide. And that's not what happens. That's not what happens at all. And it's so sad and disappointing that that's...
So you think, Chad, they had to come up?
Wow, Anne-Marie from Canada, thank you so much for choosing to become part of our dysfunctional family where we put the fun in dysfunction. Thank you, Anne-Marie. That was so very generous of you. Hi, Jeff H. How are you? Jeff H. said, I used to go to the Mormon I did not know that, Jeff H. Every Sunday they will always say from the podium, the Book of Mormon is true. They continue to reinforce it. They believe it. They're consistent. Jeff just said one of the major words here, you guys, consistency. Consistency is key to parenting. It's key to religious. I mean, anything, when somebody's consistent, even if you're talking about a bad behavior, if somebody's bullying, when that becomes consistent behavior, it now takes on a whole meaning of its own.
With a defense, just to have one in court. You don't think he really believed or blamed all of this on you and Alex?
Absolutely. And I know that for a fact because John Pryor came and told me that prior to trial.
He did. He said, this is going to be your defense.
He said, I'm going to blame you, and Chad doesn't want me to, and he wants you to know that. Sure. And this is the kind of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that nobody sees, that nobody knows what's going on. There's so much stuff going on that you wouldn't even believe all the things that go on. The experts that are being paid, the things that are going on. We got this expert, we paid him $1 million to say the opposite of whatever your expert's going to say. I'm like, what do you mean they paid him? The state paid an expert $1 million retainer to say whatever the opposite of what our state, what our witness,
or Idaho.
In Idaho, was what our witness is going to say. And the attorneys told me this, and I'm like, are you kidding? Like,
You didn't have any witnesses.
We did. Yeah, in the build-up we did.
But then
we absolutely
didn't
did.
call him.
Well, there's reasons for that. That there's strategies involved. There's things going on, and you have no control when you have attorneys.
And
They're doing it how they want to.
And that's
do
why
it.
you wanted to be your own attorney.
There's several reasons. The number one reason was because they wanted me to sit here for 5 years while they got to know the case. And I wanted a speedy trial.
Can we go back to Hawaii? When I first met you and Chad.
And we didn't meet. You just put a microphone in my face.
Okay, when I
Now we've met.
You guys, this part is crazy to me. So if people don't remember, Nate Eaton was the one that finds Lori and Chad in Hawaii. And if you guys remember, I don't think they show you, like they don't go backwards to show you, but if anybody remembers, he goes over and she's in her bathing suit, in her bikini, she's on a lounge chair, and Chad is right next to her, and it looks like she's reading something or something along those lines, and Nate Eaton goes right over with the microphone and is like, da-da-da-da-da, and calls her out and starts asking her questions, and she was not happy. So now she's going to point it out that they did not necessarily meet. She feels as though he imposed himself on her.
We have met, you're right. Why didn't you just tell me where the kids were?
Because I was not ready to talk about it at all at that point. I was just not ready. It was very traumatic and I was not ready for any of that.
Are you ready to talk now?
I have talked about it already, yeah. I feel like a lot of things have happened in these last 5.5 years to give me strength through that tragedy that happened with my children. And I've been a lot more open in being able to talk about it now and through therapy also, like some post-traumatic stress therapy, because it's traumatic. And I'm living in here with some beautiful, intelligent, smart women. And had I never come to Arizona, and I know God put me here for a purpose, because I didn't think Arizona was going to come and get me. In fact, I think you and I had a talk about that, because there was an article that came out in Idaho saying that Arizona was not going to come and extradite me until all my appeals were finished. Do you remember that? And then my appeals...
Like the next day that you were gone.
Yeah, the next day they came and got me. And so...
Wow, you guys, that whole... I don't even know where to start with that one. Wow. Hold on, let me... Wow.
Intelligent, smart women. And had I never...
Wait, right before that, though, what did she say?
I've been a lot more open in being able to talk about it now through therapy also.
Lynn has been a member for a month. Nice, thank you. Wow, that wasn't Nate. Who approached them. Who was it? Was that Bryan Kohberger? Who approached them? I feel like I used to think it was Bryan Kohberger, but she just said that you put the microphone in my face. Where are the kids? Nate actually approached Chad and Lori as they had an uncomfortable long walk to whatever building. You're right. Who was the one that got them when they were on the lounge chair? Does anybody remember? Wait, are we allowed to say something? Yeah, please do it. Just try to be respectful, whatever it is. I'm sure you will be. I wonder if she drives other inmates crazy. No, so this is the thing. Andrea, if you want my opinion, probably not. I think that Lori, just like we see with a lot of cluster B personality disorders, she could be very charming, right? Most people that meet her report that she is very likable, that they could consider themselves, able to talk to her. She's easy to speak to, so on and so forth. That is not an anomaly. That is something that we often see especially with narcissistic and antisocial tendencies. So that charming appeal, if you guys remember last night, if you didn't watch, we went over Chris Watts and the narcissism of Chris Watts and how that looks very different than narcissism in other people. I would say that Chris Watts and Lori Daybell are two totally different type of narcissists. However, the bottom line is that they both, or let's say narcissistic behaviors. But although the behaviors are the same, they're very different. If you remember with Chris Watts, we talked about how his image was so important to him. And when that image collapsed, part of his identity, or not part of, his identity collapses as well. Although he was very timid and he was more quiet and stuff like in the background, Lori is different in the sense that she's very charismatic. People are drawn to her. I would say that Chris and Lori are both very attractive. So I think that plays a role in both of their ability to get people to like them. But they're different in the sense that one is more timid and laid back, and the other one is more extroverted and uses her voice to get what she wants, and also uses other things to get what she wants. And we're going to see how that works out as well.
Like some post-traumatic stress therapy because
Wait, who's Nicholas Brendan? Buffy the Vampire Slayer? Oh, I'm sorry. Seeing Lori Daybell just reminded me I'm all out of mixed nuts at the house. Oh, you are too funny, Jeff. Oh, Nika's Noro Nuggets. Hang on. Isn't she a, wait, why is Nika's Noro Nuggets in here? Is narcissistic the same as what we used to just call egotistical? No. So let me tell you the difference here. Egotism is a part of narcissism, but narcissism is a whole lot more than that. So that's like one part of it. But yes, so what you're generally thinking about, sure, absolutely. We used to say that person has a huge ego or they're very egotistical. Absolutely. We probably were referring to narcissistic behaviors. But I would say that today's day and age, we overemphasize and over-categorize people into narcissism when they may have narcissistic traits or narcissistic behaviors, but everybody has to remember, whether it be narcissism, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder. Oh, that's what she said, post-traumatic stress disorder. I'll get back to that in 1 second. Make sure I don't forget about that. But the point here is that, you know, we see one thing and something else can be true. Here, real quick with the post-traumatic stress disorder, did anybody take notice that she tells us that she does therapy for post-traumatic stress disorder because this entire event has been so traumatic? Think about how fucked up that is that she just said that. She is the one that's been charged and convicted of killing multiple people, so she is considered a serial killer. A lot of people don't put that terminology on Lori because I don't know why, to be honest with you. But, you know, she very much so is considered a serial killer. She killed more than 2 people at different times. They weren't all on the same day. They weren't all in the same episode. So there was a period of downtime in between. And whether she's the one that did it with her physical hands or somebody else, she's been held responsible for it because the law has seen her, you know, they've proven that she has done this. So we have to remember that too.
it's traumatic. And I'm living in here with some beautiful, intelligent, smart women. And had I never come to Arizona, and I know God put me here for a purpose because I didn't think Arizona was going to come and get me. In fact, I think you and I had a talk about that because there was an article that came out in Idaho saying that Arizona was not going to come and extradite me until all my appeals were finished. Do you remember that? And I think, and then my appeals...
Like the next day that you were gone.
Yeah, the next day they came and got me in. So, and my appeals attorney was supposed to come, he had an appointment that day when they came to get me to drive down from Boise to Pocatello for us to have a meeting, and they didn't even tell him I was gone. Like, I was just gone that day. They came the next day, so I didn't think they were coming.
You mentioned a tragedy.
She didn't think that they were coming for her. Think about that, right? Think about the crimes that she has been convicted of. And she didn't think that they were going to come for her in Arizona. In my opinion, some people might ask, why would they come for her in Arizona if she's already been given life without the possibility of parole in Idaho or somewhere else? And I am not a lawyer, and I don't know if Travis is here. Hi, Lucy. I don't know if... Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you for saying that, Lucy. I think that everybody else's brain works as fast as mine. I have to remember that it doesn't. So I will slow that down. Thank you for pointing that out. We'll try it at 1.2. If it's still too much, let me know. You hear an echo. All right, well, let me pull this away. Let me see. I don't know what I'm doing differently. So let me know if I fixed it at all. I moved my microphone away. I usually keep it over here, but then you guys said that you heard the fan of the computer, which, again, that's from my computer, you guys. I figured it out. I should have spent the extra 100 or 200 bucks for a different computer. I learned my lesson, trust me. Oh, wait, I think it's stopping. Lori would say that that's Jesus. Jesus just came in and put the fan away. Oh my gosh, thank you.
You said that this has all been a family tragedy.
Yes.
And it has been a huge tragedy.
Absolutely.
All of this.
Absolutely.
4 juries have said you and Chad and Alex caused the tragedy.
Yeah. That's the judicial system.
But how do you argue with that if all of this evidence came out that showed, you know, that you, Chad...
The only evidence that ever came out is evidence state wanted to put forth. They manipulate the evidence to make it look however they want. And guess who helps them? The media helps them. Because from day one, when someone called you okay, day one, whether it was Detective Hope or Detective Hermosillo, I'm not sure, called you and said, hey, Nate Eaton, this is going to be the biggest story of your life. And they got that information from Heather Daybell. And Heather Daybell and Detective Hopper are connected, right, because their kids got married. And they called and she said, oh, I have a story for you. These people killed their spouses so they could get married, which was totally a rumor, totally untrue. And then you ran with it. And you got famous from it. And everybody knows what happened from there, right? So that's the way it goes. So the media put out their narrative. They kept on with it. The state went along with it. The state leaked stuff to the media to say what they wanted.
What's false about
OMG, you guys. Think about what she's saying there. Think about that. She just told Nate that he got famous because she killed her kids and husband and wife and like what? I totally get that. Look, he looks so perturbed by what she just said. Also, I feel like he looks disjointed here because I feel like as she's talking, his inside truth meter is going off like she is lying. And I believe that's what he does here. He tells her the parts of that story that just are not true.
Oh my gosh, everything.
And can somebody please drop the link to East Idaho News in the comments if you can, please? And everybody go over and like subscribe, all the good things.
your children were found dead in Chad's backyard. That's not wrong. Tylee was chopped up and burned. That's not wrong.
No, that's all mixed up. That wasn't.
I saw photos of JJ wrapped in plastic and duct tape. That wasn't wrong.
Okay, I understand what you're saying of those facts. Those facts in and of themselves are wrapped around a whole lot of untruth.
About how they ended up there.
Correct.
So if Tylee killed JJ and then felt bad and committed suicide, how did she die first?
She didn't.
She didn't?
That's not part of their whole fake narrative. That's part of everything that they were doing. So I don't really want to get into all of those details with you because you obviously are very set in your mind. I'm not here to change.
Okay, did you hear what she just said? I don't want to get into those details because you are set in your mind. When it comes to narcissistic behavior, you guys, it is never a narcissist's fault. It is always somebody else's fault. You guys, I see that Kresha is, it looks like her live's starting to come to an end. I would love to hear what she has to say. You two bad actors, I don't know if you could I think you were in the chat with us earlier in there, but I would love if somebody let her know that I was doing this because I would love to hear what she has to say because she, in case people don't know, Kresha is very much involved in this story. Lori's her cousin, right? No, let me back that up. I apologize. Sorry, that was Megan. Kresha, you can punch me in the face if we ever see each other. I did not mean to mix you up with Megan. That was not what I meant to do. Kresha is JJ is related to the Vallows. So she's Charles Vallow's cousin, right? So Charles Vallow is Kresha's mom's brother. So it's her uncle. I cannot believe I just almost called her Megan. Oh my God. That did not mean that. Anyway, back to this. Oh, you're still in her chat. Awesome. Tell her that we're talking about Lori over here and that I would love to hear she's Charles' niece. Yeah, so Charles is her uncle. Yes, so that's right. So Charles and Kresha's mom are brother and sister. So she is very much part of the story. And we've seen that she's been taken advantage of, and so is her mom, just like many victims have. And we see how the actions of one person has a domino effect and affects just so many other people, right? Like Kresha is just, the things that she's been through from this case have just been, it's just unbelievable. But again, when it comes to Lori or any narcissist, it's always going to be your fault. It's the media's fault. It's my fault because I'm doing my live on her tonight. It's your fault because you're watching me do a live on her tonight. Do you see what I mean? Nothing will ever be her fault. It's always someone else's fault.
I want her to change my mind. I'd love to hear any evidence or facts you have.
The fact that she thinks that she could change Nate's mind by using her words is such a narcissistic behavior in itself. Think about that. A lot of narcissists truly believe that if I could just talk to you for a minute, I can convince you of my story. And the thing there is, you guys, is that it's not always about convincing somebody about the story being right? But the fact that the narcissist feels like they have the ability to sway the narrative is just wow in itself.
Made me think, you know what? They had it wrong, but I haven't heard anything otherwise.
That's because you've been pushing this narrative for 5.5 years. You're not telling me that your mind is not set on what it is already?
Minds can change.
They could change
Right.
if they're open to change.
Right.
Okay, so miracles are on the way. And you remember I asked you to watch a movie?
Yes, Evan Almighty.
I did. And did you watch that movie?
I did.
And did you identify yourself with the reporter in that movie?
I don't know if I identified myself, but did you identify him with me?
Yes, absolutely.
So when
I want you guys to take notice that Lori right now, this is her interview. She only gets so much time with Nate, and she knows that. It is my personal opinion from watching this, and I'm literally reacting to this blindly. It is my personal opinion that right now she's becoming the reporter, and now she's posing questions to Nate. What does that do? It takes the story away from her, puts it on him, and now she's interviewing him, asking him questions. Did you watch the movie that I told you to? So she's the one in control. She's the one that's setting the narrative. She wants to know if Nate, did his assignment. He says that he did. But now she's asking him questions as if she's the one interviewing him. Like, it's unbelievable.
what does that mean?
Okay, so when did the reporter change his mind?
Remind me.
When he was floating in the flood on the ark. Okay, not until God showed the miracle did his mind change. His mind was like, this is a crazy guy. He thinks he's like Noah. Why are you so crazy? He's pushing the narrative, right? He pushed the narrative.
So she is now comparing herself with a figure like Noah, who is a major, major figure in, holy books.
The narrative. And then the flood came. And he's the first one screaming. And he's screaming and he's running for the ark because he'd been pushing this narrative the whole time, right? This fake, false narrative that this guy was crazy, that God didn't talk to him, that all these things have happened, right?
And that's how she feels about herself. She feels that people think that she's crazy. People don't understand that God has talked to her. So I always talk about projection. If this isn't projection, I don't know what is.
Weren't God things that happened, okay? So then he's the first one to get on there screaming, and when he's floating down the river on the flood is when his mind was changed. So when you're open to change your mind, I will be happy to enlighten you to the things of God.
Well, I would love to
She would be happy to enlighten him.
hear what you have to say. I wish we had more than 2
I wish we
minutes.
had more time too, because we could really get into it.
So he knows, he just told me right there that he knows that she's trying to manipulate the time.
Couple of more questions for you, and then I know you have some things you want to say. The night before Alex died, he told Zulema, I think I'm their fall guy. Was he?
No, absolutely not, and I don't think he ever said that. I watched Zulema go through probably 13, 14, 15 hours of detectives grilling her. I've watched the interviews. I've watched them all. And I watched her be berated by them, threatened by them, that they're going to arrest her, that she had a part in this, that she's a co-conspirator, and all this stuff until they got her to say exactly what they wanted her to say. And she made that up. She made up a lot of stuff, and I felt bad for her because I didn't want her arrested because she wasn't part of any conspiracy, because there wasn't any conspiracy. And I felt really bad for her. I do love Zulema.
Did you and Chad have anything to do with
All right, so I'm going to try muting my mic, and then you guys tell me if you can't hear it.
Alex and stuff?
No, absolutely not. We were very surprised. No.
What were you and Chad and Alex doing in the storage unit moving the tire?
All right, so real quick, were you guys able to hear that when I muted my mic? If not, I have another idea. Let me know, though. I hate this stupid fan. And it doesn't always, you guys don't always... not complain about it. When I say complain, I don't mean complaining, but mention it. So it must be something right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end my screen share, and I'm going to reshare my screen, but this time. Okay, so Jeff, this might be it. It says, wait, yes, we can hear it. You could hear it? It was better when I muted it? Who knew? Okay, then let's do it. I think I know what was wrong though. I have on here also share tab audio, and usually I don't click that. So when I would turn my mic off, nobody could hear the computer. I did click it this time, but that might be why we had an echo. So I will make sure that I mute my sound when I have it on. Thank you guys for letting me know. Awesome. I'm so glad you guys could hear it. All right, let's do it. Let's keep going.
in the seat back and forth on the day that Brandon was shot at and the day after.
So that's so silly that is, so there was stuff in my garage that I was starting to move into the storage unit. That's what we were doing. And so I moved that stuff in there.
The tire on the Jeep?
I moved stuff that had been in there, it was just sitting in there. It had been sitting in there. So I didn't have enough room to park. So I couldn't carry it, it was heavy. So I had Chad help me put it in. And the next day, Alex was like, where's all that stuff in the garage? And I was like, I went and put it in the storage unit. He was like, oh, I need that. So we went and got it. And that was it.
Can you see how, let's say you're not here, let's say you're at home and you find out about this story and you do all your research, you go through all the court documents, you watch the trial, and you're watching another woman going through exactly what you're going through. Can you see how it sounds kind of crazy what you were saying, like the fact that this was all a coincidence, or you were just moving stuff in and out?
Yeah, because the narrative has trained the people.
But if you did your own research.
The narrative has...
The narrative has trained the people. Did you just hear? That's crazy. Oh, I hear you, Jeff. So the echo is probably coming through the mic. We hear you on the mic, then we're also hearing you on the computer speaker. I get it. So I'm hoping that when I shut the volume off, I heard someone, or not heard, I saw someone said that that's why people often forget to unmute themselves, because they mute themselves during the thing. So let's try it and see what happens. And let me know, you guys, if it's better that way. But just keep in mind here, you guys, she is also, hi, what are you saying? She is also very much doing very egotistical behavior here.
Train the people. I have people come up to me all the time in the gym. I know everything about your case. I've watched everything. And they have every fact wrong.
But aren't you in isolation? Are you able to talk with other inmates?
Yeah, you have no idea what it's like in there. Okay, I'm in max security.
Wow. I love that he has the gall to call her out. He legit just said, how's that true, pretty much, because you're in isolation.
In PC, which I didn't choose to be, but they put me in there for safety reasons.
Tell me what PC means.
So, protection.
Okay.
Yeah,
protective custody.
Protective custody, yes.
Okay.
And so I'm in a max pod with all the other women that are max. So there's like 8 women in my pod that are facing the death penalty. Okay, we're all in rooms in there, and we are all in there 23 hours a day, and we get 1 hour out a day to take a shower and clean our rooms. And that's how it is in there. But all of our doors have openings so we can talk to each other even through the doors. And so, yeah, so I'm not isolated. But when I am transported to court, like for my 2 trials, right, I'm with women all day long that don't normally see me. So I'm friends with everybody in my pod, but other women will shout out to me that, oh, I know everything about you. I know everything about your story. And they've been so indoctrinated by the media and their narrative that they put out. And nobody was asking me what's happening. Nobody asked Chad what was happening. Well, would you have listened then? You have.
Absolutely.
You need to be on the boat, Nate. Are you on the boat yet? Because when you're on the boat, Nate, I'm going to be happy to share all this stuff with you because miracles are on the way. Miracles are on the way. And when you're on the boat, that's why I sent you that last message. Well, I sent you the last message saying, when you're on the boat, you'll be ready.
So
when you're on the
Sorry, I just someone to connect my audio.
You say Jesus is your friend.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Does he support cheating on your spouse?
We weren't cheating.
Does he support killing your husband?
I didn't kill anybody ever.
wait, I can hear it now. I think it's getting fixed. Hold on. I think I got this now.
Your kids?
I didn't kill anybody.
Killing
as you
your
know.
boyfriend's wife?
Okay. Was I in Hawaii when Tammy died? How did I kill her? Are you going to explain that to the world now? How did I do that?
Using your kids' money while they're dead?
Okay, all that is messed up too.
How
That's all lies.
How did you rent that unit in Hawaii?
That's
With what
all
money?
lies. Chad rented it. I did not
Chad
rent
didn't
it.
have any money until Tammy died.
Chad rented it with his own money.
Okay.
Chad was an author and a publisher and had his own company.
So
that's what I'm saying.
You're
getting
getting $30,000 a year.
No, but you're giving up facts that you don't. You're giving up whatever the state put up. They don't put up the whole story, Nate.
And
they just put up tiny pieces to put together their own narrative. That's it. You don't know anything about our lives or how they were or what we were doing in the temple. What we were doing in the temple every single day.
While you were in the temple, while Tammy was still alive, you were in the temple with Chad.
Several times, yes.
Right. So he's married to Tammy.
Correct. Tammy came to the temple with us too.
The 3 of you.
At some points, yes.
How many times?
Probably twice.
When is this narrative?
What did she just say
With
about
Chad.
Tammy?
Several times, yes.
Right. So he's married to Tammy.
or how they were, or what we were doing in the temple,
Jurors?
what we were doing in the temple every single day.
While you were in the temple, while Tammy was still alive, you were in the temple with Chad.
Several times, yes.
Right. So he's married to Tammy.
Correct. Tammy came to the temple with us too.
The three of you.
At some points, yes.
How many times?
Probably twice.
When is this narrative going to come out? When are you saying the full story is going to come out? Like your side, what really
So
happened?
I have written,
Think about how messed up that is. That Tammy went with them a few times? What? That's crazy. So yes, Anne-Marie, she's delusional or believes her lies. Holy moly. I think both things can be true, right, Anne-Marie? There is delusional disorder, and I do also see cluster B. I saw somebody put that in there. I do see cluster B personality behaviors here. When I say cluster B, there's four personality disorders that fall within cluster B. That's antisocial, narcissistic, histrionic, and borderline personality. Here, let me be honest, I see behaviors mostly of narcissism and histrionics. I also see antisocial behavior as it relates to her ability to eliminate children. Think about that. I also think that it's, it's ironic how many familicide cases we cover here. I mean, we talk about covering cases of people taking other people's lives or their own lives, things of that nature. But if you really think about it, you guys, there are so many cases that we've covered on this channel that have something to do with familicide. And that is just a whole nother ball game, in my opinion, because now you're dealing with, I mean, it's one thing to objectify somebody that you don't know, and now see them as an object, not a person, so it's easier to eliminate. It's another thing to objectify somebody that you have known for years, birth, married, so on and so forth. Wow.
I'm writing it. I'm writing it, and I'm going to write out every single thing from beginning to end so that people can really understand, because you can't understand what happened with Tylee and JJ unless you understand what happened to Tylee in her life. You have to know Tylee's whole story from beginning to end. And when you know what happened in Tylee's life, you start to understand. The understanding, the lights click on. But nobody has said that. This lady got up in Idaho. It was 1 year after I had been arrested, and it was going to be Tylee's birthday. And there was a lady in Idaho Falls, and they were having some kind of vigil, and it was on the news because I was in a pod by myself at Madison County, right? And I'm watching the news, and this lady comes on, and she says, oh, it would have been Tylee's 18th birthday, because she died 2 days before her 17th birthday. And she said it would have been Tylee's 18th birthday today. And if Tylee were here, she would be out with her friends, and she would be singing and dancing, and she would be doing all these things. And this is a lady who has never met Tylee, never knew her, never knew anything about her life or our life. And I was like,
I have a feeling I know where this is going. If she says that Tylee would not be doing these things because she would be in pain or miserable or whatever the case may be, I mean, talk about placing blame elsewhere. And now what? It's Tylee's fault? Like, what?
do you know how many of Tylee's birthdays we spent in the hospital with her screaming in pain while she's on morphine, and the morphine isn't enough to take away the pain?
Wait. Are you?
Wow. Wow. I have not seen this. I am so glad that just happened. The reason I'm glad this happened is not to show, like, oh, I knew what I'm talking about. It's to show you guys that human behavior is very, very, very much predictable. Not always, but most of the time. The best predictor of future behavior is past relevant behavior, especially when we see characteristics of certain traits of different disorders. We know that those disorders are characterized that way due to similarities across cases, just meaning that they're, for example, for depression, we know that somebody may eat more, they may eat less, they may sleep more, they may sleep less. In other words, we see certain things that are specifically affected. That same thing's happening here. The idea that I was able to just predict that she was now going to say that Tylee was in pain and that she wouldn't be dancing and singing with her friends, and we have no idea. That wasn't because I'm psychic. It's because I know human behavior and I know narcissistic behavior, and therefore I was able to predict what comes next.
really blaming this all on Tylee?
No, absolutely not. I'm saying Tylee had a really hard life, and people don't
So
understand.
how does that tie into her death and your son's death and Charles being shot and Brandon being shot at and Tammy's death?
Okay, all those things connected, right? It's a domino effect. So in 2017, I was told by the Lord that I was going to become like Job and lose everything. Will I do this job if I lose everything? And so this domino effect of things happened. This is all the Lord's doing. And guess what? He's going to come forward and tell it all. And I don't have to. But I'm writing it all down for posterity. I'm writing it all down because you know what he told me? You know what Jesus told me? He said, this is going to be real good scripture reading in the future. So if you go back and you read the scriptures and you find all these stories that were going on, what do you think is going to happen? These are the last days, right? We believe that. You believe that, right?
When can I get a copy of this? Because I want to read it.
But you're going to.
She says, we believe that, you believe that. Again, this is a way, this makes me wonder if Nate Eaton was one of the people that she was willing to interview with, knowing that she might be able to use some of this information as a form of manipulation on him. Even if he was a former LDS, member, he doesn't even have to be a current one, even a former one. She knows that she can use that to manipulate him and to pull at his heartstrings and to be like, we're the same, mate. Like, we're very similar people. Don't you see what I see? Type thing. I love that he's very strong in his convictions as far as, well, what the hell does that have to do with her death, the kid, so on and so forth, right? So I'm so glad that he's able to articulate that to her. But come on, you guys. So all those people were her possessions. Well, that's a great way to put it. I would call it objects. So yes, you could say possessions because they're hers, right? They're her kids, it's her husband, her, new husband's wife, so on and so forth. So you could say possessions. I would also say that those possessions, like any other possession, is objectified. By objectifying these people in her life, she was able to then eliminate them in a different way. And how do we objectify somebody in this matter? By considering them dark and therefore a zombie or evil. And if I am, she just told us, you guys, Jesus told her this. Jesus told her this. She said, when Jesus told me, da 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 da. Now, can we say, if you are very spiritual, you might say, oh, like Jesus spoke to me, da da da. And you might be meaning that metaphorically. I genuinely think that, and even if she doesn't, if she knows that that never happened or whatever it is, she is saying it convincingly to Nate Eaton, thinking that he believes this, which in itself is just like Birdie said, shake my head.
The whole world's going to get to read it. I'm working on it. I work on it every day. Jeff's like, what are you doing in there all day? I was like, I'm writing. I'm writing. It's coming to me. I'm writing.
When you were on trial in Idaho, didn't you say that Jesus was going to be back before the end of that trial?
Okay, who said I said that?
I'm asking you, did you say
No,
that?
absolutely not.
That.
I have never, Chad has never, we've never given a date or a time. The prophet...
July 20th, where'd July 20th
Somebody made that up and put it on there. I have never said it. Chad has never said it. We've never had a date. We're going with what the prophet says. When President Nelson gets up and says, these are the last days, we need to prepare for the second coming. We need to gather Israel on both sides of the veil. That's what we were doing. That's what we were working on. And we wait for his timing. The Lord has his own timing. He's never early. He's never late.
Why has Chad been excommunicated?
Is great. So I think that was false too. That was
what did she just?
That's what we were doing. That's what we were working on, and we wait for his timing. The Lord has his own timing. He's never early. He's never late.
Why has Chad been excommunicated?
Is great. So I think that was false too. That was.
He's never early. He's never late. His timing is just great. What? And YouTube Bad Actors tells us that Nate is current LDS. I did not know that. Let's see, what else do we have here? Vut says, made up in her mind to justify her actions. Another life they were married. In another life they were married. She's the chosen one, blah, blah, blah. And again, absolutely. So Chad very much believes in past lives, and I believe he even like wrote books about it and stuff. So we have to remember that she was reading Chad's books before she ever met Chad. And just like somebody that might watch my show, that let's say you've never been a part of our chat before, but you just have come on and you've listened to the shows, you're going to learn a lot of stuff about me where we're not really going to learn much about you because you haven't engaged, right? So we have to keep that in mind. She knew a lot about Chad already. So when she met Chad for the first time, I believe she was with her friend Melanie, when they go and meet Chad that first time, she already has in her head a character of who Chad is or what he represents symbolically. And I think that's a big part of the story because she then, and again, I don't know this to be 100% true because I can't diagnose her or never seen her in person, but if she does have a delusional disorder, this meeting for her mental health, if that were the case, could have been validation that wow, I am the chosen one. So this could have pushed a delusion of grandeur, so a delusion of being large, right? She thinks that Jesus specifically chose her and Chad to like, you know, act out what he says is going to happen and stuff like that. And I think that we all have to remember that. Jeff says that, um, Jeff says, she said Joseph Smith wannabe. Did she? Oh, she's a Joseph. I thought you said she said she's a Joseph Smith wannabe. Jeff, you have to tell us about um isn't Joseph Smith the prophet? I apologize that I don't know exactly. I think he's the prophet. YouTube ad actor says, right, Jeff? And the more that claim they've talked to Jesus, the more and more they lie about it. And that is so true. And this is the other thing. If somebody else is having religiosity as far as religious delusions or persecutions, whatever that may be, hearing some of these things could then validate for them in their thought process things that may not be true as well. So just like, her perception of Chad Daybell could have been a character of some sort, and his words, and she meets him in person, he's saying these things, and it's like, wow, we met like this. This is like a miracle. Like this was meant to be. I am the chosen one. And now he then, I don't know if you guys remember, but if I remember correctly, they used to meet at night. Now, when I say this, I'm talking metaphorically. I mean, I don't think they meant it metaphorically, but just so you know, they not time traveled. What would you call it? Where pretty much, I guess you would say it would be like, oh, what do they call it in dreaming when you can, um, um, do you know how to something dreaming? You guys fill me in because it just slipped my mind. Where you can control your dreams pretty much. So it's something like that where they meet up. It's like a thought thing, and they're able to meet up and be with each other in thought. So I wonder how many nights does she meet up with Chad in her head and really believes that her and Chad are just as close because she sees him in her thought process. I don't know that Chad is experiencing that same thing in his cell block. That's all I'm saying.
Mean. That was mean.
To excommunicate him.
Absolutely.
Are you still a member?
Okay,
far as
so
I
it
know.
is a prophet.
Okay. So, Lori, if you could go back 6 years ago,
Yeah.
June of 2019,
Okay.
would you change anything that's happened over the past 6 years?
Oh, that's a good question, Nate. I don't think I could because
could.
we were foreordained to do this mission, right? The Lord is using Chad and I right now, and this is what He's told us, as instruments in His hands. What do you think He's trying to teach the people, especially His people? His church. What do you think He's trying to teach His people right now while He separates the wheat from the tares? He has to have an earthquake. It has to be so detrimental. It has to get everybody's attention. Our case has done that. And what is He doing with that divide? He calls it, you know what Jesus told me? He calls it the great divide. What do you think He's doing with it?
I don't know, but
He's teaching people not to judge. Don't judge something. You weren't there. You don't know what happened. Don't judge. That's what He's doing. And
Let me ask you a question, Jeff, since we have you in here and you seem to know, about this. Is what she's saying, is this like the real teachings? And I'm not asking you to give us a whole sermon here, but like, like you just said before, you just said that a lot of people in this religion want to be the favorites or want to be the ones that are closest. And I guess you could say that in a lot of not just religions, but just in dynamics in general, whether we're talking about family dynamics, how many people, like there's t-shirts that say I'm the favorite child or things like that. So that is not an abnormal phenomenon. We see that happen often. My question here is she seems to be questioning Nate a lot, almost quizzing him on like, Nate, why don't you know this? And she doesn't always say things like, well, Nate, you know, da 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 da. Instead, she'll say, Nate, what happened at this? And then she waits for him to say, can you remind me type thing, or I'm not really sure, because now that puts her in the position of being the teacher and him being the student. And that makes her feel, in my opinion, feel empowered and like she's in control and grand, right? That she's in control and that she's grand. So let's see. Um, what do we have here? So Jeff says, from my experience, the LDS Church, I believe I can say that many and there want to be God's favorite. Many in there want to be God's favorite. Then we have, um, oh, Casey, you with your 1% phone. Thank God you found your charger. So then, but you says, what are you saying? I said, I mixed what are you saying and cuff you. Did anybody hear that? I said, but you instead of what are you saying? Because I saw cuff you right above it. So what are you saying says a pretty she used to be a pretty one, people falling all over her or wanting to be her friend, but that was slipping. And here comes Chad. There you go, right? And oh, it's lucid dreaming. Thank you, Night Sky Fire. Thank you so much. It's called lucid dreaming or astral projection. They are not the same thing, but what you are describing sounds like a mix of the two. Thank you so much. I do not claim to know everything, you guys. When it comes to psychology, I'm your woman, but there are just, I can't know everything, right? So I do appreciate that. But yeah, so somebody tells me if that's how it was, right? Like as if they meet up in their dreams to be with each other, but she really thinks that that's what's going on. Jehovah's are similar, in my opinion, says Andrea. A portal, that's it, Casey. A portal. They came through a portal, you guys. So this portal, it's almost like a thought experiment, if we all remember that term, right? Uh, Jeff says it's like they reinforce each other's craziness. So this is what I'm saying, Jeff. That's exactly what's happening right now. But this is the thing. I see this happening more with Lori to Chad, but not necessarily Chad to Lori. So let me tell you what I mean by this. To me, Chad is, think about how even more evil of a person one would have to be, because I don't think Chad genuinely believes the things that Lori believes. I do believe that he does, and this is just my opinion. I believe that he believes all the religious stuff. That's not what I'm saying. But the part with the portals and stuff, I don't know that Chad believes in that whole portal thing. I think that he says it to give Lori a sense of calm and connection. But I feel like Lori, in my opinion, holds on to that because she gets something from it. Where I don't know that Chad's in his cell thinking, how do I get to my portal so that I can see Lori? Where I can see Lori in her cell getting to the portal so she could see Chad. Does that make sense, you guys? So then Jessica says, Jeff, and this is not how God works at all. He loves all of us equally, and not a few who claim to be special and better than everyone else. You should have humble servant's heart, not with pride or vanity. Yes, and Jessica, I think you're agreeing with Jeff, not saying against him. Um, that's exactly right, right? And I think that's the whole delusion of all this is the fact that if you are somebody who believes in religion, no matter what that religion is, you often are taught or feel that God loves everyone. So he loves the person that sins, the person that doesn't sin, the person that goes to church, the one that doesn't know that much about him. He loves everyone equally, right? So it goes to show that there are fringes of religions, many different beliefs, right? where someone's thoughts can be distorted and then validated by someone else's thought process. So when we start to validate each other's thoughts, we are now, um, what's the word I'm looking for? We are not just validating each other's delusions. There's like a certain word I'm trying to say here. It'll come to me. I just said it earlier. I talk about it all the time. I'm just having an ADHD moment, but it's pretty much the same thing. There's a psychological term for it. I literally use it all the time, and I'm just having an old person moment. But it's literally when two people, this happened. Do you guys remember the case with Slender Man, where it was three teenage girls and they were all supposed to be best friends, and two of the girls had a delusion about Slender Man where they believed that Slender Man was real. And what started to happen was they believed in Slender Man, but part of them still like was on the, like questioning. And again, we're talking about like, I believe they were teenagers by this point. So we also have to remember that at this time, animism is a thing, meaning that kids, inanimate objects can have lifelike qualities. What started to happen here was there were two of the three girls that had undiagnosed mental health issues. The one was undiagnosed paranoid schizophrenia, which her dad also has. And she recently, I don't know if you guys remember, just a few months ago, I believe her name is Anissa and Morgan, and the other one was Bella. I don't know how I remember all this stuff, you guys. But was it Morgan that just escaped from um, she's not in a jail, I don't think, right? I think she's in more of like a mental health facility, but she winds up escaping from there with a 40-year-old man. They eventually get caught. But some of you may remember this. It was a few months ago um, online. It was on the TV. It was everywhere. It was like a big deal. They eventually get caught. They show the body camera. They ask them both for ID. The police think nothing of it. They're just like, oh, you guys, like, you can't be hanging around here. Do you have ID? And then they start acting very shady. And that's when the cops start to get suspicious. I bring this up because in that Slender Man case, had the two of the three girls not met, could they have found someone online or another friend or someone else that could have validated their delusional thought process? Absolutely. Shared delusion. That's the word I'm looking for. But what happens here is that they begin to share a delusion. That's what I'm looking for, shared delusion. And why is this important? Because it's one thing to just validate each other's delusions, it's another thing to share a delusion. The whole Slender Man, that whole crime becomes a bigger thing once their delusions are shared. What does that mean? One would say, well, this one time I saw da 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 da. And the other one genuinely, they're not making it up. They genuinely remember a time in their past where something similar happened. And they're like, oh my God, when I was 15, da 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 da. And so now we're sharing a delusion. So now we can point to different things. I'm using the Slender Man one as an example just because I know a lot more about that case than I would claim about the Mormon Church, which I should get to know more of so that I can speak better or um, more accurately or centered on these cases. But again, this shared delusion between Chad and Lori would be, and again, more so for Lori, in my opinion, where they both have this belief system. For me, Chad exploited this theory to sell books, right? So to make money, things like that. For Lori, he comes along, validates a delusion of hers, in my opinion, and now it becomes a shared delusion. So now she not only feels validated, but she starts to share her own experience, which in turn fits into Chad's experiences and they start to overlap. And now it's more of God's will in their eyes than it is of our choosing. It was up to God for us both to meet and, all about it. Like, so something Chad says could validate something for her, even a specific term. So Chad, and I'm making this up, but Chad could say the word pineapple, right? But to her, if that word was said in the sentence, it's like, oh my God, only Jesus knew that that's the word I was looking for. Like nobody could have known that. So that's what I mean by that. So they will find things, or there'll be biases, or there'll be pieces of information and data that fit into their thought process, which now makes it a shared delusion, which in my opinion makes it that much more dangerous.
He's separating the wheat from the tares right now in his own house, and he's using Chad and I to do it.
So what if you end up going to Pocatello in a few weeks
Yes.
And Alex, yes.
spending the next 30 or 40 birthdays
Right.
there behind bars?
That would be God's will, but I'll tell you right now, that's not going to happen.
It's not
It
gonna
is
happen.
not going to be 20 or 30 years. No, it is not going to be 20 or 30 years. I will testify to that right now.
So if it's not, how about we meet every year on your birthday and we do a follow-up interview and you can give me the timeline?
Absolutely. I don't have a timeline other than what the prophet has said. Did you watch conference? This last conference? Did you watch it?
Are you able to watch it in here?
No, but I was
you
at the
read it?
prison. At the prison, I was able to listen to it because on your tablet you have AM/FM radio, so you can listen to the
okay.
whole thing. So I got to listen to it the last time before I came. But they did have one. They have one. I think it's a 2023 conference on our tablet here. So I've watched it over and over. But all the prophets, all the apostles, everyone in the LDS church is saying, prepare. Gather Israel on both sides of the veil. I was going to the temple. I went to the temple every day for like 3 years. I was doing all Charles' family's work. I was doing all my family's work. I was gathering Israel on both sides of the veil. And Jesus came there. That's his house. And he talked to me. And he told me that he needed me to do a mission for him. And this is what we're doing. And the media has turned it all around. But it was supposed to be, you know, there's always a Judas. And I almost used to think of you as the Judas.
Me? Was I on the dark list?
No, but this is what I'm saying. There's a Judas. People think that Judas is a villain. Judas is not a villain. You know what Judas was? Judas was a vessel. Judas was a vessel for God's plan to come to fruition. And he
Wow, you guys. By her, in my opinion, saying that Judas isn't bad, he was a vessel for God. Right now, she sits there as a convicted felon, which society would often see as bad, right? And again, I'm not saying me, I'm just saying, like, oh, you killed somebody, you know, whatever. The way that she probably perceives that others look at her, like by offering these examples that she keeps giving, I want you guys to think about it. In my opinion, she sees herself as these people that she's comparing to.
told me the other day, it's coming to full fruition.
God did?
Yes. So when we are, just like he told Noah, who was what? Steve Carell in the movie, right? So God came there and talked to Steve Carell. Is that true? In the movie?
Yeah.
And the media guy didn't believe him, right? This guy's crazy, right? God didn't talk to him, didn't tell him to do anything, didn't tell him to build a boat, buy all those lots, make his wife mad, spend all his money, build a boat because that whole thing was going to get wiped out, right? So God has told me lots of things, and this is one of the things that he told me. He's using us as instruments in his hands to separate the wheat from the tares.
Did you ever
And
think...
people are choosing. Do you know how many people have left the church over our case? Which, what does our case have to do with the church? Nothing. It has nothing to do with the church. We're not against the church.
Did you ever think you'd have the title of convicted serial killer?
No, do I?
Well,
Wow. Wow. He just said, do you think that you'd ever have the title of convicted serial killer? Wow. Night Skyfire, I hope that you see that we are an amazing channel to be a part of. We are very, very supportive of each other. And I do a lot of things academically here. Every now and then I try to just chill and not bring my PowerPoint slides. But a lot of the times I do come with PowerPoint slides. So I'll just tell you that. And I don't know if you were here in the beginning, but I already pumped out a few of them. I usually try to break it up in the middle of the video so that people aren't like, oh my gosh, I'm at school. But then I find that people like when I am being the teacher that I am. So, and again, I'm just saying that 'cause that really is my profession. So I hope that you do stick around and give us a chance.
4 people.
I mean, I guess you could technically say that, but everyone in the world knows that I didn't hurt anyone. I've never hurt anyone in my whole entire life.
Well, you, years ago, everybody I've talked to, your friends, family, say you were a great mom, so much fun, loved to dance, loved music, loved to travel. You were the light of the party. And here we are in a jail. How did you get from there to here?
God put me here for his purpose. And so you know who he needs? He needs somebody who's the life of the party, somebody who teaches the girls how to work out, somebody who teaches the girls how to have fun and dance and do all those things in this, the worst jail in the country. He needed somebody to come in to the worst jail in the country and strengthen these women. And I'll tell you what happened. We used to have this wonderful lady, and she used to come in, and she's from mental health. She used to come in on Tuesdays, and she'd be down there, and she's blonde, and she's really cute, and she's really fun. She's bubbly like me. And she would come down there, and she'd try to get the girls to work out and give them coping mechanisms and talk to them about stuff like that. And half of the girls didn't like her. They thought she was annoying, and they were waking her up and stuff like that. Because you know why? She wasn't one of them. She wasn't one of them. But you know what I have? I have 7 lifetimes. I have worse
So you're on your
punishments.
7th life now?
No. I'm saying I got 5 life sentences in Idaho.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, yeah.
I've got another one here and another one here
I was
pending.
talking about the multiple probations.
No, I'm talking about
sentences for...
I'm
right.
sentenced.
Multiple probations, you guys. A probation, and correct me if I'm wrong for the people that know, this is like multiple lives. So I think Nate, just like I did, thought that she meant that she had 7 lives and is maybe on her 7th, but that's not what she was talking about. She literally meant that she has 7 life sentences, or a possible 7 life sentences. Do you guys notice here? There were 2 different times. I didn't want to just keep stopping it, but it's like so hard not to keep stopping it because every time I hit play, it's like one sentence comes out and I'm like, oh my gosh, here's another point, here's another point. But take notice, you guys, this isn't her fault. You guys, duh, we're so stupid. God asked her to do this. Like, what? And then she said, did anybody hear her say about the pretty blonde that can dance and stuff? Now, I know that Nate said about, dance and teach and da 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 da. But so she does use that part, but she adds in there this pretty blonde and who's bubbly. She used the words bubbly, which makes me wonder how much of her personality, which we all know our personality starts from birth and continues, it's consistent throughout life. Um, but I wonder how much reinforcement occurred in her childhood that continued behavior. Words like bubbly are often things that we describe children as, or we use as characteristics of someone's personality. It may continue on with you. So at 47, people still refer to me as bubbly, but that's not something that started in my 40s. That's from as far as and as long as I can possibly remember. That says to me that it is important for us to look back and to see how her family dynamics played a role in the development of her thought process, and not to the point of where it crosses abnormal behavior, meaning it becomes disordered. So not even in that sense, but in the general sense, because she has brothers and sisters that were raised by the same parents in the same household that do not grow up to have delusional disorder. So this just goes to show that all of our experiences can affect us very differently, and that part of this is genetic, and that another part of this is environment. So you have the gene for something, and then something from your environment turns that gene on for you. Think of it as like a switch, how it turns it on. We've talked about addiction before, and how if you're in active recovery, your gene for addiction doesn't shut off. Think of it as a dimmer. It goes all the way down to the very, to as low as it can so that it looks like it's off, right? If you don't use and you don't, you stay clean, all the things, it stays off or what appears to be off, but it's very much still active in the background. And it only takes a little flicker for it to pop right back on. That same thing's true when it comes to mental health. We often will see that there is a biological contributor that's coming from a multi-generational basis. It could come from one side of the family, both sides of the family, but you also have to remember. So let's say you're like, oh, this runs on mom's side of the family. You have to go back thousands of years, you guys. So at some point, probably on mom and dad's side of the family, there's been some gene for one of the mental illness disorders, because we know that about 50% of adults will be diagnosed with at least one disorder in their lifetime. And we also talk about comorbidity here, which is the presence of 2 or more disorders at once, which is a lot more common than uncommon. So my thing here is I would love to do a deep dive into Lori Vallow Daybell's childhood. I would like to know about, where does she sit as far as the siblings? Like, is she the second sibling, the third sibling? Like, one of, excuse me, is she the third of 5? Like, does she have brothers, sisters? I know she has 2 brothers. What were those dynamics like? What was it like with mom and dad? Were they together? Were they happy? What did they preach? Did mom have histrionic type qualities? So on and so forth. Was there any, enmeshment in the family where it's like you don't know where one person ends and the other begins? What was her relationship like with her brother? I don't know about you. My brother is literally like, if somebody said list your five best friends, if somebody said list your top three best friends, then I have to leave a room for my husband, right? I married him. So now we're literally just talking about two other people. It would be my brother and my best friend Dana. So my brother is literally one of my very best friends. With that being said, my relationship with my brother looks very different than Lori's relationship with her brother. In many ways, but especially in an abnormal, dysfunctional way. Now, I will say, as my brother, I would probably, and I'm just being a real person here, I might turn a blind eye to something like, you idiot, but like not telling them type thing. And again, this could be anything, right? But I see a dysfunction in their relationship where I've even been told, like they've interviewed people that have gone on somebody went on a blind date with her, like a double date, and she brings her brother with her, and they said that they were like acting very sexual together, which I thought was a little strange. Other people have, and the reason I even gave any of that credibility is because there's another interview that I watched where somebody reports that they remember as kids her and Alex simulating like sex. And they like show, because I remember the person that's interviewing them was like, "What do you mean? Like, what?" And she said, like, Lori would run and like, jump on him, and he would be standing up and like holding her with like her arms and legs are wrapped around him, and he would like bounce her up and down and so. And I'm like, that, like, I've never, my brother and I are real friggin' close. That never, ever, not even close to anything like that has ever occurred. So let's see what you guys are saying. Oh, really? Wow. Okay, so let's see, you guys. So there's also a thing called choices. It's up to you to do better and how you were raised. You can do better and become even worse. So, okay, so Jessica, although I do totally agree with that, absolutely, we do have to leave room for mental illness. And what do I mean by that? Just like I was saying before, she has siblings, and those siblings have been raised by the same parents in the same household, so on and so forth. You could then say that of the siblings, her and Alex go off in like, their own lane. For Alex, I would totally agree with what you just said. I feel like with Alex, in my opinion, he was very calculated and he was able to, again, in my opinion, he was able to detach emotionally in a way that allowed him to do antisocial behaviors without feeling guilt or remorse, right? Which is why somebody could then do that again and again and again. With Lori, on the other hand, although I also see her as just as callous and manipulative and everything else as I saw Alex, I do believe that mental illness plays a role in Lori's story in a way that tips her over, if you will. So what I mean by that is, in the absence of a delusional type disorder, I don't know that she gets to the same spot. So does that mean that does she, if she doesn't meet Chad, does that mean that her kids would still be alive? Not necessarily. She could have met, Brad, who could have been just like Chad. So it could have just been, the next person that comes along. However, I do believe that that shared delusion played a huge role in this. And then she would go to people like her brother who would then help her, you know, execute whatever, quite literally, right? A lot of these things. So let's see what else you're saying. I couldn't share a jail cell with her. That would be quite the life. Oh God, wouldn't that be a penalty if there ever was one? There's also, oh wait, I read the choices one. The saddest part about this, besides the obvious, is that you don't feel fulfilled by taking from others. You feel it by giving. Amen to that, YouTube. That is so true. I often say that a lot of what I do is selfish because I get just as much joy and happiness out of helping others as the other person is that I help them. So, and I don't know if that's really a selfish thing or not, but it does make me feel good, which reinforces me to do it again and again and again. And sometimes do I get burnt? Absolutely. I got burnt today. I got burnt in a way that I don't even want to discuss because I care too much sometimes. But life is about learning lessons, and when you get burned, it's okay. You just have to get back up and you shake it off and you keep doing the thing and you don't stop helping people because there was one bad apple, right? And I'll get over it. I'll be fine. My point is, when somebody feels or doesn't feel things like guilt and remorse, it allows them to behave in a way that somebody with true emotions would never do. That's all.
To 7 lifetimes right
Right.
now, basically.
Why didn't you
right?
tell all this to the police?
So,
Why didn't you tell them all this when you were arrested? Explain this to them. You know, God told me to do this. Give your defense.
really? What happens to people when they say God told them to do something? They lock them up.
Well,
I'm locked up.
well, whatever the reasoning, whatever, if you really did think Tylee was responsible for this, why don't you tell the police? She had chronic, pancreatitis. Pancreatitis. JJ had autism. All of
right.
these things.
All of these things.
Why didn't
She
you tell
was
the-
sexually abused by her dad from the time she was 3 years old and forced by family court to go to him for 10 years. You don't think that was hard on her?
I'm
She
sure-
was in the hospital
Right.
all the time. She
Why
had
not tell the
chronic
police
pain.
this? Why not tell the police all this?
At the very beginning, or what are you talking
Whenever.
about?
I don't think you've ever talked to a cop, have you?
You know when I called the cops? I called the cops 2 times in my life. Guess what happened to me? I called the cops when I was pregnant with Colby, and his dad had beat me up, and I had a black eye, and I was thrown down the stairs, and I was 8 months pregnant. You know what they did? Nothing. They did not help me. And the second time I called the cops is when Colby was 10 years old. And we were at church, and we came in the car home, and he told me how Joe had molested him, and he didn't want the same thing to happen to Tylee. She was only 3 years old. Okay? I called the cops, and guess what I did? I called them and I said, hey, this stuff happened. I don't know what to do. They said, we don't care. Call the county where it happened. So I called that county, and I told them the whole story. Like, my son just came to me. He's 10 years old. This happened, blah, blah, blah. They said, we don't care. Call the county where the
Does anybody really believe that any law enforcement company said we don't care and not just one, multiple? She's literally telling us that she called, and you guys, I'll be fine. One thing I know how to do is regulate my own emotion and bounce back. I go through many different emotions, and for me, I just feel my emotion when I feel it so that I don't boggle it up and at a later date just have 10 times that emotion. So just know that if I ever get upset on here, that it's just literally lasting for a moment and that I do work through it. I learn how to take lessons out of life and to keep moving forward. So just know that if you ever hear my voice crack or you see me have a moment, that doesn't mean I'm not going to bounce back in 3 minutes, because let me tell you something. I worked way too hard in my life not to continue to put my best foot forward. So sometimes, just like anybody else, I'm human. My heart's big and I can get hurt, but I bounce right back and I come right back. And this literally happened like a half hour before I went live tonight, or I would have went live earlier. And I'm good. I will be okay. It's just heartbreaking because it's something that would make me wonder, like, and again, I'm just using this because I'm looking up, but like, you two bad actors, like, could they really be somebody that hates me secretly? And again, I use you in the sense that that you would be the last person I would think would be that type of person. That's why this is hurting, because this was a person that I would not think would ever think. It was like the least that I was thinking. But again, you live and you learn, you guys. So let's get back to Lori.
perpetrators living. So I called that county and I said, this is what happened. And nobody would talk to us. And then the county finally called me back where it had happened, where we had lived previously. And they said, okay, come in tomorrow, bring the kids in, and we'll forensically interview them. Okay? So we did all that. I did everything that the cops asked me to do. And then when I was in there, they said, after they met with Colby, they interviewed him for 45 minutes, they interviewed Tylee, they came out, they said, Colby met all the criteria we use to prosecute, and we're going to prosecute him, and we're going to keep your kids safe. And then they did nothing. And Joe hired a criminal attorney, and they did nothing. And he never got indicted, and nobody ever even looked him in the eye and said, did you rape your children? And for 10 years, the judge told me that if I didn't take Tylee to him every other weekend and 30 days in the summer and every Thursday night, that she would put me in jail. If I was late for one visitation of dropping her off at a dad who was raping her in the middle of the night, that I would be put in jail if I didn't abide by that.
Did you have anything to do with Joe's death?
No.
I am so glad he asked that. I literally was waiting for her to stop talking so I could say, does anybody find it ironic that Joe doesn't live?
Alex?
No. We didn't even know. We were living in Hawaii. We had come back. Tylee was forced to go to him for 10 years by the courts. Hated it. Came home and cried, screamed, kicked, hit Colby, hit Cole, hit Zach, scratched him, yelled, threw things through the walls, was a nightmare, had night terrors, never slept at night. Tylee never went to sleep before 3 o'clock in the morning. She's 5 years old. She can't go to sleep. I have to stay in bed with her till 3 o'clock in the morning rubbing her back because she can't sleep because bad people wake you up in the middle of the night to do bad things to you, mommy. And so Tylee was a nightmare. Charles thought she was a brat. I didn't discipline her. Then I was in the hospital with her watching her scream and writhe in pain while she's on morphine because it doesn't work.
I've interviewed several jurors. You may have seen the interviews.
I haven't seen any juror interviews, none.
And
I have no access. I'm in here 23 hours a day. I'm in max security. We don't have access to anything.
Well,
so I haven't seen anything for a year and a half since I've been over here.
They've said they were disappointed that they wanted to hear from you, that you didn't have a defense, especially in Idaho.
Okay, let me ask you a question. If I get up on...
Is she talking that fast? No, I have it sped up to 1.2. I'll slow it down to regular. Well, here, we'll do 1.1. We'll meet halfway.
On the stand, and Trina Kay's sitting there, or
Rob
what's
Wood.
her name? Lindsay Blake, Rob Wood, right? And they're sitting there. Are they going to let me tell Tylee's story on the stand? You know they're not. They're going to object every 2 seconds.
If it's relevant to the case.
I'm writing it out. No, they won't. Because they don't want me to tell that story because it's opposite of their narrative. It crushes their narrative. It crumbles their narrative. It's never going to be what it is.
As a defense attorney,
Yeah.
you present your defense. So you would have witnesses that would come in and would testify to the things you're saying and would give
I
evidence
love it,
to
Nate.
that.
You're just as naive as I was, and I love it. Because guess what? I found out as a defense attorney, this is what happened with Judge Boreski. This is what happened. They don't let you put on a defense. Do you know how many motions I had on, or not motions, do you know how many exhibits I had on and get ready for us to present our case for the first trial?
How many?
We had 33 exhibits. We put them up there. Trina Kay went up there. She gets to look at all your exhibits, right? This is how it works in law. She gets to look and see what all our things are, what we're putting up. Guess what I had? I had about 5 interviews with one of the cops who said, I have to get Lori on something. I have to find something to charge her with. I have him saying this on video.
Which cops?
Okay, Detective Moffat. Guess what happens? So I have 4 of those are my exhibits. I'm waiting for Detective Moffat to get on the stand. The state says they're going to put on Detective Moffat. Guess who they don't put on at all?
Moffat.
Detective Moffat. They go around you, and then the judge didn't let me put in one exhibit, not one.
What if you?
He didn't let me.
Okay, you guys, so pretty much what she's saying here, let's just cut right to the chase. She's not guilty. Judge Moffat didn't let her put it on. So because of that, right? Duh. If they would have just let her put on a case, she would have been able to prove to everybody that she didn't do anything. But nobody let her put on a case. Everybody else could put on a case. And did you guys notice that she said now that I'm a defense attorney, or she said as a defense attorney? So imagine that. Imagine if Travis was on here right now. And I can't imagine how much studying goes into passing a bar exam in any state. So to think that Lori, again, because she defended herself in the court of law, that she now considers herself a defense attorney is just mind-boggling at best.
Put one exhibit on.
What if
not
you had
one.
waived your right to a trial, though, and given your legal team another year or so to go through all of that? Don't you think that would have helped your case?
No, not at all. Because guess what my team said? They said he wouldn't have let us put it on either. There's so many jobs, so much political aspiration going on behind the scenes in a high-profile case. There is no way in heaven that they were going to let me get up there and win as a pro per client. Because you know what? It's like a virus in here. You know these girls that are treated so bad by their defense teams that are making $1.5 million a year while they sit here for 8 years, 10 years waiting to go to trial? There's girls in here that have been in here for 10 years. Do you know what happens when you have a toothache in this jail? They pull out your teeth. So tell me how it's not prejudicial for you to go into trial with 5 of your teeth missing and you look like a homeless person and the jury's there judging you, right? And because you've been sitting in a jail that doesn't have any dental for you for 8 years waiting to go to trial.
You mentioned a virus. Were you really sick?
Oh, I was so sick. Yeah, I really was sick.
You weren't putting it on a little bit in the wheelchair?
Not at all. I couldn't
putting your
even
head on the table in the courtroom? You were really feeling sick.
So one of the first days of her trial where she defends herself in this one case, she's really sick, and it was thought in the news that she may have been faking to like prolong it another day or to give herself more time with something. I think she was really sick. I think that they found enough evidence that she really was sick. I think the sick thing here that she's saying is the fact that um, you know, she says a lot of delusional things, but at the same time, she makes a few points here, right? Um, Most people, however, do not defend themselves in a court of law. I would say almost, you know, the only other person I could think of that tried to defend themselves at this moment that I'm thinking is Ted Bundy tried to at one point. But most people don't defend themselves in a court of law. So most people wouldn't have to worry about the whole teeth problem. I do think that there is something to point out that, you know, especially if you're innocent until proven guilty, that you should have um, regardless, you should be treated with dignity and respect. And if you're, I do see what she's saying. People do judge other people. It is what it is. It happens. It happens all the time, and it shouldn't, but it does. I understand that. But my thing here is she's trying to now say that, you know, you can't even win as a defense attorney because somebody may look at you and judge you for what you look like. So I guess, like, does this, my thing is always looking at what's the secret message behind this? And it's the secret message behind this, like, you should allow me to continue to do my hair and put on makeup and all the things because you know what I mean? Like, I always feel like when she does pull up a story about the girls that she's defending in the jail or this, that, and the other, I feel like they're a prop, in my opinion, for Lori to continue to give a manipulating message to others. So I feel like part of Lori has this delusional um, behavior patterns that I see, and then the other side of Lori I see is very calculated and manipulative and knows exactly what she's doing and knows how to get what she wants. So when you have these two competing things together, you could see how explosion can occur.
I tried so hard not to throw up in court, and Jeff can attest. So Jeff had the same virus I had. We had been working till like 8 o'clock at night getting ready for trial. The next day, when I went Thursday, he calls in sick. He's sick in bed, can't lift his head, he's throwing up. Okay, Friday at trial, we were picking a jury. I threw up at lunch and told the judge, I was like, oh no, I must have the same thing Jeff had. Jeff missed my whole trial because he was sick for 10 days in bed. Was so sick. I've been incarcerated for 5.5 years. I've only ever been sick one other time, and that was like a really severe headache that I thought may have been COVID or something for like 10 days. I've never been this sick. And you don't have any access to anything. Like, you don't have access to medicine or food or anything that you need. I was so sick. I had an infection, I had to get on antibiotics. And the medical here is ridiculously horrible. They did a test on me, were supposed to give me antibiotics, they didn't give it to me for a week. And it started until a week later than I should have started on them.
Do you feel bad about anything that's happened? Do you have any remorse, any apology, anything?
Bad about anything that's a really broad
question. It
question.
is a broad question. About the past 6 years.
Okay, take notice. I'm going to remind that so you can hear that. He asks her, and this is the thing, he abruptly um, cuts her off. I think Nate is very aware that he has limited time to do this interview and that she keeps trying to turn the conversation in a different direction to waste some of that time so that he can't ask her these questions. He wanted to meet with her. So by calling her out and saying, like, why wouldn't you meet with me type thing? So now she's meeting with him. So now, you know, by her doing that, it allows her to then walk away and say, well, I met with Nate and he could have asked me whatever he wanted. You know, there was nothing nothing was off the table type thing. He could have asked me whatever. It's just hard to ask somebody something when the other person doesn't stop talking long enough for you to get a thought in. So I like that Nate here not only abruptly interrupts her, but he says nothing that they're talking about. Like he literally jumps completely to the obvious, the thing that he wants to know. So he's not asking her a question about what it is she's talking about. He's asking her the questions that we want to know the answers to.
Any remorse, any apology, anything?
Bad about anything that's a really broad question.
It is a broad question. About the past 6 years. Any? Do you feel bad about it?
Do I have bad feelings about anyone?
Not bad feelings. Do you personally feel bad or feel some remorse for the victims in these cases?
None of the people are victims. So
are you the victim? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying I'm a victim at all. I'm not saying that at all. I'm an instrument in God's hands. The victims that you call victims are not victims. Tammy died of natural causes.
Coroner disagreed with that. The coroner.
Which coroner are you talking about? The one the state put on?
Brenda died, the county coroner.
Okay.
Who said she was asphyxiated. So aren't her kids victims?
Okay, no. Do her kids feel like they're victims? No, they don't. They understand the truth. But let me tell you something. Let me tell you something about Brenda Dye for a second. Let's go back to that, because you said the coroner, and that is not even a true statement.
She originally ordered it as natural causes. You're right.
Oh, thank you, Nate. A fact, a true fact.
Then they exhumed her body the day before Alex died, which looks suspicious with Alex's death. They exhumed her body, and they said, no, she had the marks.
Did you hear what you just said?
What?
Looks suspicious. Who exhumed her? Why did they exhume her when she had a natural death?
So you're saying...
Why did they exhume her when she had a natural death? What was the explanation for exhuming her when she had a natural death from the coroner? The coroner said it. Why?
Because you and Chad were under investigation, and they thought that you all might have killed her.
Why? Because of Heather.
I love that he just said that. He just said the obvious. That's not what she was expecting him to say. I want everyone to notice that it's very narcissistic for someone. When somebody has narcissistic behaviors, it's very hard for them to take accountability for anything, like I've been saying this entire life. We not only see that here, but I mean, we see that big time. Not only is she not able to say that she does not feel guilt or remorse for any of the victims, she goes ahead and takes it a step further and says, there are no victims, Nate. What are you talking about? And we all know that that's not true.
Daybell, what she said at the very beginning and called you up to say? That's exactly where you're getting it.
That's where you're getting it.
I didn't say she called you. She called you through Detective
I didn't talk
Hope.
to Detective Hope at all.
Did you talk to Hermosillo?
I don't remember talking to Hermosillo. The tip I got when you were in Hawaii was from none of those people.
It was before we went to Hawaii. It's before you went to Hawaii. How'd you get a tip before you showed up in Hawaii? You obviously had a tip before you showed up in Hawaii.
We found out about this case when the police sent out a news release. And then somebody random, I still to this day don't know, and I swear to you, to this day, we got a Facebook message from an anonymous account with a GPS location of where you and Chad were.
Someone did not. No, you were in an interview with someone. I did see a tiny little piece of an interview. I think you had Hermosillo and someone in an interview, and they were saying, didn't someone call you up and say, this is going to be the biggest story of your life, Nate Eaton?
Oh, a police detective did tell me that, yeah. But it's not.
Who was it?
It's not the people that you named. It's a source. So
you're not going to tell me your source, but you know everything about me, but you're not going to tell me your source?
There's a lot I don't know about you, Lori. Back to the question of, you don't feel bad. You're saying none of these people are victims.
I feel
Kay
bad,
and Larry
of
aren't
course.
victims. Brandon's not a victim?
No. I'm not saying...
Wow. I can't believe she just said that Brandon's not a victim.
That people haven't had hard things happen to them in their life. Everyone has hard things happen to them in their life, right? The judicial system plays up the victim thing pretty big, right? We've seen
Thank you, Amory.
The people who lost their children. I lost my children. I lost them.
But because of what you did.
Did you guys just hear what she said? My children are victims. What? Because you killed them. What?
Up the victim thing pretty big, right? We've seen it happen. The people who lost their children. I lost my children. I lost them.
But because of what you did.
What did I do to them?
You arranged with Alex to conspire to kill them.
No, I did not. Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Did you know that they were in Chad's backyard?
No, I did not know that. I did not know where they were. Alex told me that he was put them in a safe place. That's what he told me.
Did you find out at court, at the first trial? Is that the first time you'd seen those autopsy photos?
Yeah, I hadn't ever seen them. I never looked at them before that. Because that's not how I picture my children. I know where they are in heaven. I know what they're doing. They have come to visit me. So I don't see them as bones. If anybody dies and you go to a cemetery and you dig them up 9 months later, you're not going to like what you find. It's not going to be
pretty. They're not
going
to look like that, Lori. They're not going to
Wow, you guys. Look, listen to the rationalization she's doing here. She's rationalizing and she's using the fact that she knows that they're in heaven as a way to make the things that her and Chad and Alex did okay. And that's just not okay. She has zero accountability, zero remorse, or zero guilt for any of this, in my opinion. I don't know if anybody else feels different.
I'm saying anybody isn't going to look like that. I'm saying once your spirit leaves your body and goes to heaven, okay? Because I died, right? When I was giving birth to Tylee.
She died when she was giving birth to Tylee, you guys.
I died. My spirit left my body. And guess what happened? When you're out of your body and you're your real self and your eternal self and who you are, you could care less what happens to your body. I've had that experience. Chad's had that experience. There's others that have had that experience. So the body dies. Everyone's
Okay, there it is. She's had that experience. Chad's had that experience. Do you guys see how that's a shared delusion there? So, and again, I'm not saying that that didn't happen. There's plenty of people that die and then come back. So I'm not saying that that doesn't happen. What I'm saying here is that by her having a near-death experience and Chad having a near-death experience, they now share something that maybe somebody else doesn't have. Because let's be honest, it's not common for people to have near-death experiences. So this now makes her and Chad a part of this elite group that know what it's like to die, go to heaven, realize that your job is not done on earth, and then be sent back down to earth to finish the job straight from Jesus. So in that sense, I mean, there's just so much in this interview that is dysfunctional. I can't even, there's not enough hours in the day.
dying, right? We're all going to die. Our bodies are all going to go back to the earth where they were from, and we carry on, we move on. So my children are in their eternity. They're doing well. They're happy. They're moving on.
They're doing well, they're happy, they're moving on. How effed up is that?
They don't want me to be sad. They came to me because they don't want me to be sad. They say,
Right?
Mom, you didn't do anything wrong.
Mom, you didn't do anything wrong. You just didn't protect me like a mother's supposed to, right? You ended the life of my dad. Um, you ended the life of my stepdad's wife. You ended the life of my brothers and sisters. You, you know what I mean? And it just keeps going on. You could have ended the life of Joe Ryan, who knows? And I wouldn't be surprised if that doesn't get opened again someday. But like, wow, you guys, wow.
They're doing well. They're happy. They're moving on. They don't want me to be sad. They came to me because they don't want me to be sad. They said, Mom, you didn't do anything wrong.
I've got one last question for you.
Sure.
There's a lot of people that say I shouldn't have interviewed you. Well, they don't know I've interviewed you, but they say that you don't deserve a platform because of what you've done, what you've been found guilty of. Do they have a point?
Look at how uncomfortable that just made her. I want you guys to look at her face again. Look at the twitching in her face. This is all signs of anxiety.
There's a lot of people that say I shouldn't have interviewed you. Well, they don't know I've interviewed you, but they say that you don't deserve a platform because of what you've done, what you've been found guilty of. Do they have a point?
In this unfair judicial system, anybody could be found guilty of anything. And I would say to the people, I would say, be careful who you're judging, because anybody could end up in orange. You could be living your little life in the suburban bubble like I was, and anybody could end up in orange. Anybody, because they can turn this on anybody. There's women in here.
Imagine, just imagine, you guys. Imagine what she just said right there. And look, even how she's holding herself. What is that? Is that something? Does she have a ring on her ring finger? Does anybody see the black ring on her ring finger here? Wow.
And anybody could end up in orange.
Anybody can end up in orange if you kill your kids.
Anybody, because they can turn this on anybody. There's women in here, beautiful.
Anne makes a great point. She hates being deflated. And Anne, why does she hate being deflated? Because there's nothing worse to a narcissist than an injury. So we've talked about narcissistic injury before on the channel. I've done shorts on it. If you guys haven't seen it, please go check after. But with a narcissistic injury, you have to remember a narcissist wants to feel grand. They want to feel, they want to feel like they're the best. They're the strongest. They're the smart. They're great. So when they are made to feel very small, they then have to find a way to feel big again. And we see this with her. I mean, we see this with all the narcissists that we talk about, but she's showing us this in real time right now. And it's just so interesting to me.
Smart, intelligent women that have had their children can turn. suburban bubble like I was, and anybody could end up in orange. Anybody, because they can turn this on anybody. There's women in here, beautiful, smart, intelligent women that have had their children die, and they're family tragedies, and they're not crimes. And the state has turned them into crimes, and they're not crimes. And what I got accused of and convicted of, just like the 3 Nephites, what crime did they commit that they got 7 death penalties for? What crime did they commit that they got 7 death penalties for? I'm in good company. I'm in good company, and in heaven I will be in their company. And I didn't do anything that deserves this kind of punishment. But God did want me here. He did want me in here with these women. And he wanted me to lift and strengthen women and uplift them in these family tragedies. There's women in here that have
He wants her to uplift women in these family tragedies. What about Tylee? Wouldn't that go for Tylee? Isn't she a woman?
suffered the same things I have. They've been here for years, waiting to go to trial. They
I
haven't even
agree,
gone to
Jeff.
trial yet. But it's an unfair system, and they probably will get convicted. And then we'll see each other at the prison, and we'll uplift each other there until Jesus comes. And when he comes, he's going to set everybody in the prisons free. And all those who are unjustly and wrongfully convicted, like me and like these others, we will be walking free on this earth, and we will be walking with Jesus, and that's what we're going to do.
Okay, I have
Wow, you guys. Wow. There's just so much there. Wow. And look at her face here. Like, she's like, I almost feel like she's probably the one in prison that like talks to these girls and makes them feel hope and makes them feel alive and makes them, you know what I mean? And that's very powerful in itself. That is so dysfunctional. I can't even tell you. Anne Marie asks, is narcissistic injury different than cluster B? Cluster B, you guys, so there's 10 personality disorders, and we have 3 clusters, A, B, and C. There's 3 personality disorders in cluster A, 4 in cluster B, and 3 in cluster C. The 4 personality disorders that fall in cluster B are narcissistic, histrionic, antisocial, and borderline personality disorders. They all share odd and eccentric behavior. Odd and eccentric behavior is what classifies a cluster B diagnosis. So narcissism, histrionic personality, these are types of cluster B personality disorders. And narcissistic injury would fall under narcissism. So if you were writing an outline in school, personality disorder would be the main title. Right under that would be cluster A, B, and C. Under cluster B falls antisocial, borderline, histrionic, and narcissistic personality disorder. And then within narcissistic personality disorder is narcissistic injury. Hopefully that makes sense, right? So just like you would have different sub things for the other personality disorders. So they are different but similar in the sense that a narcissistic injury stems from a narcissistic personality, which is a cluster B personality disorder. So hopefully that made sense.
15 cards, but I'm getting the wrap. So thank you, Lori, for chatting with me, and maybe we can chat again.
Maybe we
another
can
time.
do it again sometime.
Okay. Thank you. Happy birthday. See ya.
Oh my God.
M&M's. Can I have M&M's? No? Are you guys going to meet me? Yeah.
Oh, wow. Wait, I have to see that again.
Wrap. So thank you, Lori, for chatting with me, and maybe we can.
Now, wait, let's remember the last thing he says to her is insulting to her, which is why she has to come back at him like this. And yes, she is wearing a ring right there on her left finger. It's obviously, I think it was Lucy, somebody said about her wearing a ring. It's obviously like a paper ring or a cloth or something. It's not like a real ring, but she has a ring on.
And like these others, we will be walking free on this earth, and we will be walking with Jesus, and that's what we're going to do.
You're right.
Okay, I have 15 cards, but I'm getting the wrap. So thank you, Lori, for chatting with me, and maybe we can.
All right,
chat
watch
Maybe
us
we can
again.
do it again sometime.
Okay. Thank you. Happy birthday. See ya.
She never says goodbye, you guys. She literally gets up and like jets out of there.
M&M's. Can I have M&M's? No? Are you guys going to meet me? Yeah.
Wow. Wow, you guys, that is so, whoa. Oh my God. All right, so let me take that off real quick. I do want to show this real quick because I want to make sure that we don't leave here with a bunch of things open. But let's just go over this again just for a second. So Over here, we have this was the coercive control and didactic radicalization. So the pair can become a close, meaning system. Each person strengthens the other's distortion. I wrote it right there, you guys. The pair can become a closed meaning system, meaning that each person strengthens the other's distortion, aka shared delusion. That's what's happening here, in my opinion. So, first, with emotional fusion, the relationship becomes the central source of validation and direction because again, we share something that nobody else has. We're special. We have this enlightenment that others wish they can have, right? This then leads often to isolation. Why does it lead to isolation? Because nobody else understands us, okay? We are, um, you know, we are the chosen. I'm trying to make my fan go faster so that it'll stop doing that. I apologize. But you guys, we are the chosen, right? So now you have competing voices. You don't want family and stuff like that to be around that are going to tell you you're crazy, or like Charles that's going to try and stop all of this before it occurs. They don't want that type of thing around. So here, when you have competing voices, what do? You start to ice those people out. It's like if you don't believe in what I believe in, then you're just not with us. So it's kind of like you either join us or you're against us. So here I have competing voices, family, law, routine, doubt. They are all discounted or pushed out. Once you don't follow along, once you don't fall in line, I'm done with you. You're out. You're dark, right? In Lori's words, you're dark, and then you're out. Then we have shared language. I just used one of the words, dark, right? So dark is a shared language, light is a shared language, zombie, doomsday, the 144, was it 144,000? I don't want to be disrespectful to anybody. I really genuinely am asking. Um, oh, Wendy says every day is a school day here. Thank you. I don't know if that's good or bad. I hope that that's good. I guess it depends on who it is you're asking. I guess the people that like it come. So there you go. So then with that shared language, we have special terms. And again, notice I wrote special terms and not just terms. These are special terms because we are special people. We are the chosen ones. So now we can code categories. We can consider logic, make the pair feel uniquely enlightened, right? They're the ones that know better. So now you have these 10 other females in the jail, for example, that can look up to Lori because she's enlightened. She knows what she's talking about. She's died before and went to heaven, you guys. Like, she gets it. We don't get it. Like, she's the one that her and Chad, they've had the near death experience. Like, they understand what happened. So, if you think about it, if you're somebody that's scared or you feel like you don't have hope in life or you're just looking for a piece of hope somewhere, it becomes very easy when you're lonely in a jail cell to take what Lori's saying and to give it meaning because it gives you hope of something afterwards. She tells us that the three Nephites or whatever, they've had 7 death sentences and she's in good company. So I'm assuming, and I don't know the story of the three Nephites, but I'm assuming that they did something or were accused of something bad enough at least 7 times that they were given 7 life sentences. She then, it just dawned on me that she 100% aligns herself with, wow, you guys. So the Nephites had 7 death sentences, and she has 7 life in prison or life without parole sentences. So in her head, that literally is God. This is what I'm talking about. That's the validation I'm talking about. Since they had 7 death sentences and she has 7 um, life in jail, or so that's pretty much same thing, right? In her head, that's now validation. We both had 7. I'm in good company. I'm like them. When I die someday, I'm going to be in a special room with them where we're going to be like the angels of the group. And I'm making the word angels. I don't really mean that. I just mean I use angels to mean something special, right? We see angels as somebody special. So we're going to be the special people in heaven. We're going to be in like the separate room where we're the apostles, if you will, for Jesus. And how do we know this? Because Jesus told me. Duh. And then we have escalation. So the fourth part. And if you notice, I have arrows because it goes from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. So think of it as like surface level. It gets deeper, 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 right? It says escalation. So we're going up this way. But when I say deeper, I mean deeper into the dysfunction of what's going on. With escalation, once the moral frame shifts, previously unthinkable acts may be reclassified as necessary. So think about it, the goalpost shifts now. So now it's not just about, there could be something that we thought was completely immoral. Let's say cheating. Let's say at one point, um, oh, seven's an important number in the Bible. That is so interesting. Wow. So here, you guys, like I was saying, when the moral frame shifts, it's like a goalpost shifts, and now things that we didn't think before, or things that we did think before were immoral, now become things that not only we rationalize, and when I say we, I'm talking about somebody in the situation, not only do they rationalize it, but now it becomes the mission. It becomes an acceptable thing. So, for example, I'm sure at some point in Lori's life, she would have said, no, parents don't kill their kids, right? Like that just doesn't happen. However, once she gets this emotional fusion to isolation to shared language, so now we have these shared illusions as well. And I believe there's underlying mental health issues that are just not um, diagnosed at this point. This all leads to an escalation. She starts to shift the post. Now that she starts to believe in this dark zombie-like belief system, and now that she's able to place those labels onto her children, now something that might have been not ever a thought, like who thinks that they could ever kill their kid, right? But that now becomes a very real possibility. And not only is it a very real possibility, if you've ever read like the Bible, you know that there's a lot of things in the Bible where we're asked to be courageous and brave and to do things even um, when we might not feel it in the moment, but just because we have faith and we know. I believe one of the stories, and again, this is going to make me look like such a bad Catholic, and I do apologize, but in one of the stories, right, they say, and someone tell me if I get this wrong, but I'm going to do my best to try to remember my 12 years of Catholic school. So I remember being in Catholic school and them telling us that if at the end of times that, if your door's shut and there's somebody at the front door and it looks like your child, that it could be the devil that's just looked like your child because they're trying to get you to let them in, not to let them in. So you're supposed to look at your kid and say, I can't let you in. I don't know about you. That would be really hard for me, right? I get the idea behind it, and the point is have faith that God tells you that you shouldn't let that person in, that that's probably somebody that's bad, that's um, imposing as another person, somebody that you love to pull in your heartstrings to get you to open the door. I get the whole idea behind it. I get the whole point of the story, but you know, a lot of these belief systems, if you believe that, your kid is now dark and is a zombie and is against us as a human race, and that your mission is to rid the earth of them, like that could become a thought process for someone, especially if there's a delusional disorder behind it. I put here does not require one person to be passive. So that's the thing. One person doesn't have to be passive here. Two people can mutually radicalize one another while still having unequal power at different moments. So I believe there's times where she looked at Chad, for example, as being the superior one, the one that knows better, the one that has this enlightened knowledge. And then at other points, I see her as the one that has power, and that Chad does some of the things that she says or tries to fulfill her needs and wants. Because let's be real, to Chad, having Lori on his arm I mean, that was probably a win for him. She was probably the most, one of the most beautiful things that had ever talked to him. So to him, he was like, so I just think that they radicalized each other, in my opinion, and that you don't necessarily, I think that it's different from when we see like a Jim Jones, like think of that type of cult, or Charles Manson type cult, where there's the one cult leader and then everybody falls underneath and follows that cult leader. There's other types of radicalization where the people are of equal power. So there's not necessarily just Jim Jones at the top and everybody else falls underneath. But we have a few people at the top, like Chad, Lori, the chosen few. And then everybody else, they're the apostles, if you will. And everybody else should follow their word. The next slide I have here, I only have a few more. So let's just hang in for 1 second. We're getting close. This is one of the ones that people often talk about. So the narcissistic traits as a behavioral lens. This, as a lens, I wrote, this is not a diagnosis. I always say that. We're naming patterns that may help explain choices and self-presentation. So I'm just reminding everybody here that we're looking at behavioral patterns more than diagnostic traits. Um, and a big part of that is just because it's unethical to just be like, oh, they have da da da. Now, I don't know if she was ever diagnosed with anything. If anybody knows, please let me know. So if she was formerly you know, wait, stand up for her husband. Oh, wait, I didn't read the first part. My bad. It's so great to be with Jesus. Why didn't she just off herself and Chad? Right? Exactly. Oh, wow. Self-deletion is against the Bible, but so is red rum, right? I don't know if this was everywhere, but where I live in the Catholic Church about 15 years ago or so, they changed some of, I don't want to say the rules, but well, yeah, the rules. There was a point in time in my lifetime where if you took yourself out, you were not allowed to have like a Christian burial. And again, I don't know if that was everywhere or just where I live, but eventually that thought process had changed. Enough knowledge and research had come out to where people had realized that someone who takes their life is not in the state of mind um, to where they can be held responsible for committing something. We say the words commit, right? Um, I don't know if you guys know this, but in the psychology world, we've actually changed the way we even say that. We no longer say commits S, we say completes S. And the reason we do that is because the word commits has a very religious um, it's a connotation to it and what you commit, right? A sin. So there's a huge connotation that if you take yourself out, that you're sinning. And again, there are some people I'm sure in here that might still have that thought process, but I would encourage you to do the research and to just reflect on the fact that think of somebody in that state of mind, they're usually doing it, especially if they were raised to know that it's against their religion. If they're still going to go forward with that, they clearly were in so much emotional distress that they felt that was the only way out, right? So in our church around where I live, it might even be about 20 years ago now, they changed the rules. And if somebody took themselves out, they were still allowed to have a Christian burial, which I thought was very important. Um, oh, same in Australia for Catholics. So maybe it was something the Pope did, and I'm just a bad Catholic and missed that memo. Sorry. Sorry, Jesus. I work at a Catholic university too, one of them. You guys have no idea. Every time in class, you guys would laugh. I literally, if I say something, like if I know something's about to come out of my mouth that isn't always the, I'll look over at Jesus and I'll be like, put on your earmuffs real quick, Jesus. And then I'll say what I have to, that I bless myself. And I'm like, all right, you take them off now. So I have to apologize to Jesus like 3 times a class, but he understands, right? He made me. He knows it. He knows I'm just joking. It's all in fun. But again, I don't say anything bad. It's like if I say like a curse or something. So then I put why you guys should care. Narcissistic style processing can make ideology feel less like a belief and more like a permission. Okay, so narcissistic style processing can make ideology feel less like a belief and more like a permission. So think about the difference in that, right? So over here, I have for narcissistic traits as a behavioral lens. I want you guys to see.
These are the four big ones here, and you're going to see that we not only see this in this case, but in many of the cases we cover. So with grandiosity, this is our biggest one. So this is a special mission, spiritual, and again, I use so grandiosity, entitlement, attention and mirroring, and empathy collapse are all parts of narcissistic um, personality disorder. What I then did under it was made it specific to this case. So when we're talking about grandiosity, I give you an example of how that shows itself in this case, such as special mission. We're the ones that were asked by Jesus to do this. We're on a special mission. Spiritual exceptionality. Chad Daybell, he's a writer and author. She knows that, so they're exceptional when it comes to the religious sect, and therefore people should just believe in them. And a belief that ordinary limits do not fully apply to them. So because they're special and because they're godlike, they will be treated as such, as if they don't have to play by the same rules. Do you know what else we call this, you guys? Antisocial, right? So, antisocial personality disorder, or what most people know as psychopathy or sociopathy. Psychopathy and sociopathy in the DSM, or the Diagnostics and Statistical Manual for Mental Disorders, were on the fifth edition text revision. And in there, and most of the DSMs, not most, all of the DSMs, we see that antisocial personality disorder is the disorder that we're talking about when in society we say psychopath or sociopath. Both of those terms are antisocial personality disorder. Think of how antisocial is it to think that the rules don't apply to you, right? So they apply to everybody else. You're not allowed to kill somebody, but I can because God asked me to rid everybody of the zombies. And what are you saying? We all know she's a zombie, and if God asked me to take them out, then I got to do so. What are you saying? I don't really mean that. I just, whenever I look up you guys, I see the first person I see and I use them as my example. But do you get what I mean? So it's like, I can do this because I'm the chosen one. When we get to entitlement, you guys, not only do we see grandiosity in a lot of the cases we cover here, but we see entitlement. How often do I go back to entitlement? Whether we're talking about Corey Richins, whether we're talking about Mackenzie Shirella, that was a huge one, right? Or here in Lori Vallow Daybell. Or, I mean, I could just keep going on and on and on. Um, there's so many cases of entitlement and true crime. It's like it should be its own live, and maybe it will be eventually. So with entitlement for this case, this was the right to pursue desire, admiration, or destiny, regardless of relational cost, aka ridding them both of their spouses, right? Then attention and mirroring. High stakes belief and dramatic identity claims can deliver significance, validation, and social energy. Let me just tell you what I mean by this. So, validation, significance, social energy, that's all attention, right? The mirroring part, we've actually talked about this before many times on here. I believe we even talked about it last night. Somebody with a personality disorder will often mirror what other people are doing because they don't have the same emotional capacity as other people, and therefore they don't genuinely feel some of the same emotions that most of us in the population feel at certain times. So, for example, feeling sad at a funeral, feeling happy at a wedding, stuff like that. So, somebody that mirrors, they might not have that same emotional capacity as you, and therefore they get that, oh, wait, we're at a funeral. I should probably look sad. Like, I shouldn't be making jokes. That would be inappropriate, right? So, just like at a wedding, you might see people crying. At first, you might be like, okay, do people cry at weddings? And then you might realize, oh, they're really happy. And that's what people do when they're really happy or moved. So now at a wedding, you might be like, this is so nice, like so good. But the person learns to mirror how they're supposed to act in society. And if you think about it, let's go back to Chris Watts from last night. Chris Watts mirrored what a good father and good husband looked like to society, right? So he did the things like he was the one that gave the kids a bath. He's the one that, Shanann would record him feeding the girls, just doing all of the things. But he wasn't doing these behaviors because his soul was a good dad or a good husband. He was mirroring what society valued as a good dad and a good husband. And that's what we see with Lori as well. So, and Chad, we see this mirroring of behavior. With empathy collapse, other people's needs become secondary when they interfere with the self story. So, again, with a narcissist, their needs are always first. Your needs will always be second, right? Just like it's never their fault, it'll always be someone else's fault. That's because we can't let anything interfere with our own self story. I come first, and that's it. And again, I don't mean me personally, I'm just saying in general. Our next slide here is about moral disengagement and the psychology of doing the unthinkable. So I put here that violence often becomes possible only after language and responsibility have been psychologically rearranged. Let me say that again, only after language and responsibility have been psychologically rearranged. So now, if we take, at one point it might not be our responsibility to get rid of a loved one, but now it might be because we were specifically asked by Jesus to do so. It's like, duh, right? So here I have labeling, justification, displacement, and outcome. A lot of this, like justification, displacement, a lot of these are Freud's defense mechanisms, and rationalization's defense mechanism, denial's a defense mechanism. So these are things that our brain does cognitively to make sense of the world around us. For labeling here, in this specific case, I put that people are renamed in ways that strip them of full humanity or recast them as dangerous. So, um, the kids and well, whoever they said was dark, they weren't always dark. They became dark, right? So they became zombies. So they were able to strip them of the humanity of what they had before, recast them as somebody evil or demonic, and therefore justify any future negative behaviors. Justification here, I have harm is reframed as spiritually necessary, protective, or morally um, elevate it. So again, we have to do this. I would never, she even goes on to tell people that Tylee gets rid of JJ and then takes herself out, is what I think she said. That's all bull. But imagine that. Like, imagine taking out your children and then creating a story that makes it look like your child is the one that did it. Like, it just takes a real special mother F to do that, right? Displacement here, this is responsibility is pushed onto prophecy, destiny, and revelation or another leader. Displacement in general is when we think of it, when we displace our anger, for example. So you go to work, your boss pisses you off at work, you come home and you fight with your wife. That's displacement. You're not mad at your wife, you're mad at your boss, but you displace the anger. So that same thing over here. The responsibility is pushed onto the prophecy. I'm not bad. I did this for all of humankind. Like you should be looking at me and thanking me for this. Like, how dare you think that I did something bad? This is my destiny. This is a revelation here. I'm a leader. And then for outcome, empathy shrinks. We see that big time, right? No empathy. He literally, Nate was asking her about does she have guilt and remorse or does she feel this or that? She has no ability to identify with any of that. So for outcomes here, she also believes that her and Chad are going to be exonerated before they, die. Like, stop. So the outcome, empathy shrinks, inhibitions weaken, and violence becomes easier to imagine or tolerate. Where do we see this, right, you guys? With fantasy. We talk a lot in these crimes about fantasy, and here that fantasy winds up, crossing a line and be crossing a boundary and becoming reality. That wait, real quick before I go to the next one, let me just make sure in my notes because I'm totally missing my notes over here, and I worked so hard on the notes part that I don't want to miss anything I had to say. So I put here for this slide for moral disengagement that Albert Bandura, who is the person that's responsible for social learning theory, this is the theory that we learn from watching others, whether it be our parents, our teachers, somebody on TV, somebody in the public. It's just saying that we learn. There's a social learning theory we learn from watching people in society. So I wrote here, Albert Bandura's concept of moral disengagement is incredibly useful here. Most people do not move directly from ordinary life to extreme violence without a psychological bridge. That bridge is often built with language. If a person can be renamed, reduced, spiritly recoded, or described as contaminated, possessed, or less than fully human, then the ordinary emotional breaks and begins to weaken. Harm can then be reframed as necessary, protective, spiritually sanctioned, or morally elevated. Responsibility can be displaced into destiny, revelation, or another powerful figure. In public discussion of this case, the word zombie became especially striking because it appears to function like dehumanizing label. Once that kind of label takes off, the target no longer has to be experienced as a full, feeling as a full feeling person in the usual moral way. That does not excuse anything. It just helps explain the mechanisms. The horrifying part is that moral collapse often arrives dressed up as righteousness. That is exactly why this concept matters, you guys. Literally, okay? Language can become a weapon. Think about it even as a kid. Think about the words that bullies use, right? Um, Words are very much so can become weaponized. We're almost done. We have a few more hang in there. We have like three more. So here we have attachment identity and the seduction of certainty. Extreme systems often meet emotional needs before they ever reveal their destructive cost. If you notice here, I should have spread this out a little bit better. I'm not going to read everything on the slide. Hopefully you guys could read it to yourselves too. I will try before I upload this to Discord to remember to move this over so that you can see it a little bit better, even though I think you can still see under it. But I know that my notes when you do PowerPoint slides, you're supposed to put certain stuff on the PowerPoint slides. You're supposed to put minimum and then you speak. And when you speak, it's supposed to cover the stuff that you have on the slide. So instead of me going over the slide and then reading my notes, I'm just going to put what I wrote because that should cover everything on the slide. So for attachment identity and the seduction of certainty, in my notes I wrote, people are not usually drawn into extreme systems because they wake up one day and they want destruction, right? We don't just wake up and we're like, oh, let's have destruction, or like, I am Dr. Evil or whatever that is. So they are often drawn because the system gives them something emotionally powerful first. So a sense of belonging, meaning, certainty, validation, and urgency. Those are not trivial rewards, you guys. Certainty can reduce anxiety, okay? Think about it. When we don't know what's going to happen, that's when we feel anxious. When we don't feel like we have control, we don't know what's happening. That leads to anxiety. Even if your destiny is doomed, if you know that it's certain, you can now move on from that and you can start to learn how to live with that certainty, even if it's bad, right? So certainty can reduce anxiety, chosen status can repair insecurity, romantic fusion can intensify ideological loyalty because the belief system and the relationship start feeding each other. Again, this is a shared delusion, a shared experience. Black and white thinking also offers relief from the pain of ambiguity, but those rewards come with a cost, you guys. The system gradually charges people for certainty by taking away independent reality testing, tolerance for dissonance, attachment to ordinary loved ones, and the small moral hesitations that usually interrupt dangerous behavior. So, again, what I mean with that is that with un with let me say it again, blah, 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 by taking away independent reality testing, so questioning your ability to question, like, wait, what do you mean by this, or what's happening. We talked about isolation before. This is a part of isolation, right? Tolerance for dissent, even so, learning how to you know just have faith and trust and go along with it. That's another big part of this. So this is why this slide right here matters. It humanizes the process without excusing the outcome. It shows the path into extremity can feel emotionally satisfying before it becomes visibly catastrophic. So think about that. The person gets this surge of dopamine, if you will, which then makes them feel very satisfied emotionally. But that also comes right before catastrophe. So this slide right here is a very humanizing slide, or was meant to be a very humanizing slide. I wanted to use warmth here, um, but not drift into excuse making. So that's what the thought process was behind the slide. The next slide we have, slide 9. This is red flags families and communities often miss. We have 2 more slides hanging there. Retrospectively, people often ask how something like this could happen without everyone seeing it clearly. The truth is that warning signs often appear in pieces. A sudden shift to absolute or insider language might be written off as a spiritual passion, right? So people might be like, oh, here we go again with her, or here we go with him. So people often chalk this off. And sometimes we really shouldn't, right? So rapid loyalty transfers may look like ordinary romance. Their romance could have looked very ordinary, but it was anything but, right? So deception around logistics, money, or benefits may be dismissed as chaos rather than manipulation. And we know here, or at least I know, I'm convinced that this is manipulation, not necessarily just chaos. Although there is a lot of chaos going on here, but I believe that it's born of manipulation. A strange calm after a crisis may seem like resilience instead of detachment. And that's the thing here. Sometimes we may experience this calm after disaster in our own lives, but that's not because we detach from our emotion, right? Where, excuse me, somebody in this situation, or it's not somebody, Lori and Chad, they had an ability to detach from those emotions, especially the ones of guilt and remorse, right? You would have to in order to continue to live and you know, continue to do these crimes until they get caught. Also, the danger lies in the patterns, and I talk about patterns all the time. So it lies in the patterns. When language changes, attachment changes, and behavioral boundaries start breaking all at once. That clustering matters. In prevention work and in clinical thinking, we have to learn to spot patterns. We have to learn to spot speed and accumulation rather than waiting for one perfect red flag. Wow, you guys. I wrote this. Wow. How weird does our thought process and our mental health work? Wow. I just had an aha moment. I wrote this during around the time of all this stuff that I was talking about earlier that was happening where I got a little bit hurt. Um, and how weird is it that I wrote, think about this, right? When they say like you should take your own advice. Listen to what I said here. I literally got the goosebumps when I just reread this out loud. In prevention work and in clinical thinking, we have to learn to spot patterns, speed, and accumulation rather than waiting for one perfect red flag. Wow. Families often miss danger. This part does not have to do with it, but families often miss danger not because they do not care, but because the story unfolds in fragments. Fragmented warning signs are psychologically easy to normalize, and that part I identify with my story that happened earlier. I definitely had fragmented warning signs, many of them. Um, but I've been able to normalize them by using other rationalizations and other reasons for why they may happen instead of seeing them for what they are. And the thing is, you would think that somebody like me that's trained in this, da 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 da, that we wouldn't, be so susceptible to something like this, but that's just not true. When you have a heart, it can happen. And even when other people may see it for something else and you don't, it's all about learning that lesson, seeing it, learning from it, and moving on. So I put that this slide moves us from horror to prevention and pattern recognition. Pattern recognition is probably one of the biggest um, benefits or the biggest tool. Pattern recognition is our biggest tool, let's say, in spotting red flags and therefore being able to either stop or interject when we see this bad behavior or even, take action depending on what it is that we're seeing. Then we have here, so this is our last slide here, ethical guardrails for this live analysis. I put what responsible commentary sounds like when the audience wants certainty faster than the evidence allows. And I wrote that for a reason, and let me tell you why. This is the slide that protects things like credibility. In cases like this, all of us. So the people that are watching, whether you're the one commentating, listen, whatever the case may be, whatever the participation is, we often want certainty faster than evidence can sometimes allow. The responsible move is to separate observable behavior from a formal diagnosis and to separate mainstream religious communities from fringe personalized extremist systems. So I like to say it this way. Here's the fact. Here's the behavioral pattern. Here's the psychological concept that may help explain the pattern. And here's what remains unknown. And that's what you guys hear me say more often than a diagnosis and things like that. So it should help everyone understand mechanisms of harm while remembering the real people lost in the process, like Kresha, right? She's a real person. She has a YouTube channel now where she's trying to turn that pain into purpose, and that's amazing. And we should all support her in doing so. That's how people bring purpose to pain, right? So, this is especially important in this case because the spectacle can easily overwhelm the human cost. And think about that, right? So, let me tell you my closing takeaway. I lied. There was one more. Not that I lied, but I forgot that I had a closing takeaway. If I had to leave you guys with one clean conclusion, it would be this. The Lori Vallow Daybell case is not best understood as only a crime story or only a belief story. Let me say that again because this is good and I want to make sure I get this out right. If I had to leave you guys with one clean conclusion, it would be this. Lori Vallow Daybell case is not best understood as only a crime story or only a belief story. It's a fusion story. Fringe certainty, special destiny thinking, and intense relational bonds, narcissistic style processing. Okay, we talked about that tonight. Narcissistic style processing, coercive control dynamics, and dehumanizing language appear to have formed a deeply dangerous combination. The case also teaches us that systems, which I always talk about systems like this, usually reveal themselves first in language, loyalty shifts, and the progressive shrinking of ordinary human concerns. That's what makes the psychology so urgent, you guys. We're not just asking how this happened after the fact, we're asking what patterns people should learn to recognize before harm becomes irreversible. And the most ethical way to end is to bring it back to the victims, the preventable failures, and the warning signs that should never be minimized. And that's how I want to make sure we end this tonight. Um, this is a grounded conclusion, and I think that it's important that we talk about that. So I put here for a discussion prompt, what psychological lens best explains the speed of escalation here? So in this case, was it the cult drift? So was it the cult thing? Was it coercive control? Was it narcissistic traits or moral disengagement? And we went through all of them separately on the different slides, and I don't expect you all to remember them right now. But if at any point somebody's looking over the slides and you want to tell me in chat or in a comment, which one of these you think was most played the most part in how these behaviors occurred, that would be great because I would love to hear what you guys think. Oh, what are you saying? Said that was good. Oh, but she also is very forceful in wanting others to believe it too. I don't know if you're talking about me or Lori Vallow Daybell because you can obviously say the both about both of us, right? We're both very forceful or passionate in wanting others to want to learn, or for Lori Vallow to want to believe in what it is that she was trying to get people to believe in. And that's one of the things here that is so dangerous. I also put that this case is not just about belief, it's about what happens when identity, desire, power, and dehumanizing language fuse together. And my last slide, as always, is my references. So for this slideshow presentation, I use the American Psychological Association, Albert Bandura, Campbell, Hassan, Idaho Judicial Branch, the Idaho Judicial Branch. The one I did Lori Vallow, the other one I did Chad Daybell's. These are all the things that I referenced for this particular PowerPoint slide. Leach and Tobias. So take back your life, recovering from cults and abusive relationships. I use Lifton, thought reform. You guys, when I heard that, I can't help myself. I couldn't help myself. I thought of Dr. John's thought experiment, thought reform, and the psychology of totalism. And then I did McNulser, I think I said that wrong, and Shavier, Attachment in Adulthood. I use Stark, Coercive Control, How Men Entrap Women in Personal Life. That's from the Oxford University Press. I use the Associated Press coverage of the Vallow Daybell proceedings from 2020 to 2025 for the timeline and for publicly reported trial details. And that's it. That brings us back to the beginning. So, oh no, that's not what I meant to do. There we go. So, that brings me to the end of my 3-hour presentation. And the funny thing is that my classes, like the ones that we meet one day a week, they're 3-hour classes. So I literally feel like I'm preparing for another class when I do these. And I would love to know what you guys think. Do you like this? Oh my gosh, you guys, I was crying earlier and I got makeup all over this. Oh, whatever. Do you guys like how I do this? Or if there are changes or suggestions? I'm always open for suggestions. Part of me, I mean, teaching is what I'm best at. I've been teaching for over 22 years at the college and university level, and it's what I'm most passionate about. But I just want to make sure you were referring to Lori. That's so funny. I'm like, is she referring to me? It's whatever. You said it so much better than John 1,000 times over. Thank you. Hala and Gutter Snipe. Yeah, it's been a great one, hasn't it? You guys make me feel so loved and special. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and hopefully you guys got something out of this. Again, your house is completely clean. Can you come to my house? Why do you have to get up at 8 a.m. on a Saturday? That sucks. I do not miss my kids doing that. Although I tried to do sometimes. Just not when you had to wake up at 8 a.m. to do this, But yeah. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this stream. I hope if you have any questions, you get them in there real quick before I hang up so that I can answer them. If for some reason I am live and a question comes to you, please reach out. We also have Discord. Let me apologize if anybody has ever written me in Discord. My straight A stupid, that's my nickname, straight A stupid, and this one thing right here is going to give you a reason why. I thought in Discord that all the tabs on the left-hand side were like my friends. Like, like in Facebook, it's like you have your friends. So I thought that they were all my friends. I found out at like 3 in the morning last night that they were the personal messages that those people that are my friends on there wrote to me. And some of them not only did I not respond because I didn't know that they were personal messages, but there were a few that like reached out again and was like not asking like, are you mad at me, but pretty much like, can you respond something like, hi, fuck you, something, just like, and nothing. I didn't respond because I didn't know that that's what it was. So I did a huge apology to people last night. I wrote everybody a personal response, da 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 da. But I do want you guys to know that I genuinely am sorry and I genuinely had no idea that that's what it was. I do apologize and I did get back to everybody. I also wanted to thank Birdie for giving me, buying me coffee. Birdie had bought me coffee um, this time and last time. And last time, again, I'm human sometimes, you guys. I didn't see it till this time, but I gave you two. If you buy me a coffee, I respond with a thank you via video. So you should have two video responses that you could watch. Hopefully you like them. This is what I'm going to do. The door is literally right there. I'm going to let them in. That'll give you guys enough time to write a question if you have one. Then I come back, we either answer your questions and leave, or we just leave. So 1 second, I'll be right back. Hold on, George. Okay. You two bad actors. If I could find my thing, I would be so happy. So, everyone that believes, be a prayer to St. Anthony, because I don't know what I did with it. Have you ever lost something and it's just annoying because you don't know what you did with it? When your kid is happy, it makes you happy. Isn't that the best part of being a mom? Oh, um, what do we have here? It's okay, honestly, I really don't mind other than having to get up at 8 a.m. when it's Saturday, haha. Any fun now? My dad and my babysitter are meeting us there. Oh, nice. Nice, nice, nice. Head over, yes, head over to Discord, you guys. Definitely. Okay, so I see I enjoyed your presentation. Oh, Anne Marie, thank you not only for subscribing, but for becoming a member. Like, how cool is that? Also, thank you to, let's say here, thank you to TLM for also becoming a member. Thank you to Truth, Casey, um, for and Lynn for being members for a month or longer. For Truth, it's been 9 months. Truth is my very first subscription and my longest. So 9 months, and Cuff U is right behind her. So, and I mean, Cuff You, you're probably 9 months too. I just remember that she was like the very first one, and it was a thing. It was like we had a goal. It was like as soon as I was able to monetize, Truth was like, I'm going to be the first one, and she was, and I will never forget that. I promise. Thank you to all of you. Thank you to my moderators. I love you all. Thank you for being here with me on a Friday night. Thank you for joining so late. I do apologize. I knew that pressure was on and I didn't want to like impose, so I kind of held off a little bit. I was going to go live at 9:30 and I'm like, let me just hold off a little bit. You know what I mean? Because I know that a lot of the people that would be there would probably be a lot of the people that would be interested in this particular topic. So that's why I held off a little bit. But I think I did tell you last night that if you want to try to catch me live, that I usually go live between 9:30 and 10:30. So I still met that particular time frame. I don't like to be late. I don't like to say something and then not follow through. It's just not who I am. So I did try to stay on track for that, and I think I did. And I thank you all for being here with me. With that being said, I'm going to call it a night and thank all of my moms. You guys, was Harlot in here? Harlot was in here earlier, right? Why do I feel like I've seen Harlot in here? That would be weird. I always see Harlot. I'm going to have to go try to find Harlot and make sure she's okay. Diane, thank you for being here. I just saw you here now. Jessica, I think I said hi to you already. You guys, thank you so much for being here. Wow. I don't see, um, you guys, I don't see Harlot. I don't think Harlot's ever missed the show. I hope she's okay. I'm going all the way back to the beginning, but there's a lot of messages, and I thank you. All right, I went right off to the beginning. No, I don't see Harlot. Oh, Oscar. Oscar. Oscar said her name is Vallow, not Data. And then someone else wrote, Cuffy wrote, Lori Vallow still uses the name Daybell and continues to insist on being legally addressed. That's why I did that. She does. She like says I'm Lori Vallow Daybell. But that is the name under which she's charged and convicted. That's why I use that. Women's Warrior, thank you for being here. Thank you, all of you. I love you guys. I'm going to hang up because you guys all know that I can make this another hour just by reading all the comments. But I won't do that to you. I'm going to hang up and then read comments on my own. I love you all and I thank you for being here and I hope you're enjoying my stream. Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you really want to be the best, maybe you can hype it. That would be awesome. Or share it to somebody that you think might care. But I have 33 likes. Could we get me up to at least 50? If you guys could hit like, that would just be amazing. I appreciate all of you and I'll see you later. Good night, y'all.